I welcome everybody to another edition. To another edition of the post-game show, the Irish Breakdown podcast. I'm Vince. That's Brian. That's Trevor. I'm physically exhausted. My hair is a disaster because I constantly had my hands in my and then, well, look, let's just we're gonna talk about this game. It was 49-35 win for Notre Dame over Southern Cal, out in California, moves them to 11-1 on the season. They're going to the playoff. They're hosting a game. Where exactly they're going to be seated and ranked remains to be seen. At this point, at this moment in time, at this fracture of time, I don't care. Mm-hmm. They got the win. They got it by 2 touchdowns. There was a lot of ugly. There was a lot of good. The best is the fact that they won by 2 scores. And now you can just sit back and you can watch championship weekend and not have to worry about anything and just move on. So we're going to break it all down for you guys. We're going to give you our first thoughts. Then we're going to talk offense. Then we're going to talk defense. And we're going to do super chats. And then we're going to do like we always do. But we're going to do it with the knowledge that Notre Dame is 11-1 and going to the football playoff, and we don't even have to talk about that part anymore. So, before we jump into all this, guys, Trevor, why don't you hit us with the ad read for our friends from MyBookie, please?
Yeah, you got it. I always say you can't forget about our friends over at MyBookie. This was a very stressful afternoon, so I almost forgot about our friends over at MyBookie. But Vince, thank you so much for the reminder. Yes, so it's been a crazy day of college football today. So hopefully you were able to partner with our friends over at MyBookie after you use promo code IRISH to double your deposit bonus. But if you're not, if you missed out on today, you will be able to use them again tomorrow for a full slate of NFL games or the 7:30 games you're getting ready to kick off. So you might be able to place a few bets with them. While you're in the process of signing up with MyBookie, be sure to enroll in their loyalty rewards program. You are going to earn extra cash just for placing down some bets. And of course, don't forget there's an awesome NFC North matchup going on this Thursday for the MyBookie Risk-Free Thursdays. The Green Bay Packers are taking on the Detroit Lions. So make sure you take advantage of the MyBookie Risk-Free Thursdays. So whenever you want to go and place down a bet, make sure you hit up our friends over at MyBookie. They're the sports book that gives you the tools to win and rewards you for every moment of play.
Thank you, Trevor. Appreciate you very much on that one. And guys, again, that was, if you're a Notre Dame fan, which I assume the vast majority of the people in this chat and watching this show and listening to the podcast are, you've got to be about on your last leg from an emotional standpoint right now. I know that I am. And I meant to take a ton of notes. That was what I meant to do. Didn't happen. Meant to do all the things that I normally do, but I was wired in. So we're going to give our first thoughts on this game. Guys, you can go really any direction that you want to go with this, your feelings, your emotions, the game itself, what it means, all of that, whatever direction you want to go. I open the floor to you, Trevor. I'm going to give you first dibs. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to Trevor first. Trevor, first thoughts, brother. Where are you right now with this whole thing?
About there. Look, man, this was a crazy game. And if I go back through and I look for what I like to do in this situation is I kind of like to look at everything macro view. And Vince, you brought it up in the chat. Who would have thought that after September 7th, this would be the conversation that we'd be having on November 30th, right? This was a crazy day, crazy weekend of college football. And not only did Notre Dame come out on top, for all sakes and purposes, outside of that garbage time touchdown, which, again, by the way, if Notre Dame stopped giving up garbage time touchdowns, their point differential would look a lot different on the season than what it currently does. Just saying. But overall, I mean, it was draining. But I think one of the reasons why is because this is the closest game Notre Dame has played since Louisville. The rest of the games we've kind of gotten to sit back and watch and enjoy, and we nitpick some certain things that could have been done better, but that just means Notre Dame would have won 56-3 instead of, 42-3, something like that. But overall, this was a fun game to watch, man. It was. from just a pure fan football standpoint, like I love the Notre Dame USC rivalry. Vince, you talked about it this morning when we were on the game day show. And for me, I remember Notre Dame getting blown out in 14 and 16 in the Coliseum. I remember the 05 game. That was the first game that I sat down and watched from start to finish. I remember the 09 game in South Bend, and you know, all of those emotions kind of started coming back when I was watching this game a little bit. So seeing Notre Dame win in the fashion that they did, and I know we're going to dive into everything here, but seeing them win in the fashion that they did, and this was arguably the first game this season where the offense kept them afloat more so than what their defense did. This was one of the performances that I wanted to see from Notre Dame going into the playoffs, because I needed to see them win different types of games. We've seen them win the grinded out game. We watched them against Texas A&M win the grinded out games. We've seen them win blowout games. We had yet to kind of see this team in a shootout where it was punch, counter punch. Hey, we just scored. What are you guys going to go down the field and do? And I'm happy that this was the game that I watched before Notre Dame hosts the home playoff game in December. Because I've said it all year, the mark of a really good team is being able to win different types of games and being able to compete with different teams, different skill sets. And Notre Dame showed that they were able to do that today. So I'm going to leave it pretty short because I know we're going to dive into a lot in this post-game show. But initial gut reactions, I'm sitting here talking about how drained I am and how into the game I was and how, you know, I was on the edge of my seat for most of the night, and Notre Dame still won by double digits in the Coliseum, something that they hadn't done in 50 years. So in a week,
they hadn't won by more than 20 in 50 years. They actually, had they not given up that garbage touchdown, that would have been the biggest win in 50 years. But
gotcha.
they actually won by double digits. But to your point, Trevor, it's almost a quarter century. Isn't that 2000 was the last time they won by double digits?
Well, the last time that Notre Dame won by double digits in the Coliseum, I was 3 years old.
Right.
So happy that I got to see it now.
Well, yeah. And look, Notre Dame won by, the margin was bigger than any game that USC's had all year, and it didn't take them overtime to do it. So I just want to throw that part out there before you get going, Brian. But Brian, your first overall thoughts. I did it. Go on the game, Brian, hit it.
You know how we roll, guys, right? There's going to be things we're going to talk about that we didn't like, and they got to be improved and all this other kind of stuff, guys. But this is a great team win. Just getting it out there to begin with. This is the great team win because what has done Notre Dame done them in situations like this in the past. It's that day where their defense is great all year, and it's that one game where the defense just doesn't have a plan. Lincoln Riley was all over Al Golden today. He just was. And Notre Dame made some mistakes that they shouldn't have made and things like that and all that other, and we'll dive into all that. And you needed your offense to step up, and they did. You needed your special teams to step up. Hit or miss, but field position was a huge thing outside of one kick return because you pinned them inside the 25 every other time they kicked off.
The kick coverage team was outstanding today.
Coverage team, like when Zechariah Branch made that one guy miss, I'm like, uh-oh, and then there was somebody right there, Jordan Faison right there to clean it up. Obviously the missed field goal we'll get into, but you needed your offense to step up and say, hey, guys, we got to figure this out, right? And your offense kind of put you in the first bind with the fumble that allowed USC to go down and score. They rallied back and got it done. And guys, that's what team football is about. You're not going to bring your A game every week. There's sometimes when you have a great defense and they just don't bring it. And today, Notre Dame's defense did not have it. Now, they put the game away late with some big plays, and that's what great teams do. You struggle. It's game-winning time. It's like, I think, Vince, it was you or my buddy Jeff that texted me, somebody just on this defense needs to step up and make a play. And it was the guy who was having the worst day of any defensive player steps up and makes a play to win the game. And then your All-American puts it away and taunts USC the entire time down the field, which I absolutely loved. But at the end of the day, guys, you needed somebody to step up. You needed your offense to finally say, hey, defense, y'all have carried us all year. You carried us in September when we couldn't move the ball. You carried us early in October when we were having some back and forth issues. It's our turn to pick you up and go get this thing done. And that's what they did, guys. And that's what great teams do. That's what great teams do is you don't always have it. Like, look, today, Ohio State's defense played great. The offense had to step up and get it done, and they couldn't get it done, right? You look at Miami today. Offense was doing what they needed to do, needed the defense to step up. They couldn't do it, right? So, you watch what's happening in college football in the last month, and you've got to say, like, you needed it. I'm watching people get beat by 6-5 teams every Saturday, and 7-5. Ohio State just got beat by a garbage 6-5 Michigan team, and USC threw everything they had at Notre Dame today, and Notre Dame still won by double figures. And at the end of the day, the score ended the way it should have, if not for a couple early mistakes by Notre Dame. This was a 2-3 touchdown game, and a lot of times, if Notre Dame just kind of letting them get back in the game. But I'm watching what's happening in college football every week, and I'm watching Ole Miss beat 2-10 Mississippi State by the same score. I'm watching Alabama get beat by Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. I'm watching Georgia take a team that Notre Dame smoked into 8 overtimes. I'm watching Syracuse and Georgia Tech beat Miami. I'm watching Michigan beat Ohio State. I'm watching Wisconsin almost beat Oregon a couple weeks ago. And I'm watching this, and I'm watching this, and I'm watching this. And every single week, Notre Dame just steps up to the plate and gets it done week after week after week after week after week, and avoided what's happened to everybody else in college football outside of a couple teams, which is those bad losses. And they stepped up and got the job done, guys. And, and they did it without their A game. That's the thing. They did it without their A game. And they did it without their B game. I mean, they played a D game on defense, if we're being honest about it, right? I mean, the D made a couple stops here and there, but they played their D game until the very end of that, guys, and they still got it done. The best part of your team played bad football today, and you got the win. And that's the mark of a great team, is we don't have to win the same way every week. And Trevor, you said it. This team has never had to win like this. It's been a long time since Notre Dame had to win like this, and they won like this. Because remember last year, guys, when Notre Dame's defense had games like this, and there weren't many. Louisville, right?
The offense
had a game like this. Yeah. Clemson, right? In 2022, you think about the Marshall game. You think about the USC game in 2022, right, where your defense was struggling. Everyone's defense is going to have days like this, right? But your offense couldn't step up and get it done. What makes this team different is that the other side of the ball said, hey, fellas, we got you. We know it's been rough. We got you. And they tried to do it multiple times, going up 14-7 late in the first half, and then the defense gives it up. Got to start fast in the third quarter, and that was the difference. The third quarter was the difference in this game, fellas. The offense comes out and scores, I think, on their first 3 possessions of the third quarter, and the defense makes a couple stops, and that allows Notre Dame to get that double-digit lead that they never relinquished. Because think about it, Vince.
3 out of 4.
3 out of 4?
Yeah, there was the pick in there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Which was the best sequence of the game.
I completely agree with you.
Guys. As you throw the pick, they get the ball near midfield, and your defense is struggling, and the defense does what? Stops them. Yeah. And then what does the offense do? They go right down the field and score.
Yeah.
At that point in time, you knew the game was kind of over.
Yep.
It was going to be but that sequence of events, guys, was so important to be able to go out there and say, hey, listen, while I'm watching everybody else in college football get beat week after week after week, Notre Dame just keeps boom, 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 boom. Because it's a great team. It's not a team with a great defense anymore. It is a great team. Some stuff you got to get figured out the next 3 weeks, right, fellas? And we'll talk about plenty of that. But Ohio State's got stuff to need to figure out after just getting beat by Michigan. Miami's got stuff to figure out after just getting beat by Syracuse. Georgia's got some stuff to figure out after getting smacked by Ole Miss a couple weeks ago. Bama's got stuff to figure out after losing to 6-5 Oklahoma, right? Notre Dame's got stuff to figure out after beating USC by 14 points and giving them their first double-digit loss of the season.
Yeah.
That's big. That's big. And if not for a garbage touchdown, that would have been the first time since 1966 that Notre Dame won by over 20 points in the Coliseum. Right. First double-digit win in the Coliseum since 2000. Before that, Vince, it was 1988. So in the last 36 years, Notre Dame has had 2 double-digit wins in the Coliseum before tonight. That's huge. Huge.
Yeah, look, this was, I still think, even though that this did not, and we've got plenty to complain about, and we'll get to it, but this was still a statement game for Notre Dame for all the reasons that you just said, right? Ohio State loses today. Miami loses today. All those teams that lost, last week. And, the teams are losing to teams that they should not lose to in environments that they should not lose in, right? Notre Dame goes on the road, and for the last 10 minutes of clock, right? There's an awful lot of fans dressed as seats at the Coliseum, right? Because they were out. They were done. They were gone. And, I give USC credit for going down and scoring at the end there. Okay, cool, fine. Defense did not have their best game, but the highlights that they show, the defense looked pretty stinking good, right? And, here's the thing about this team, too, that I definitely want to highlight is that this team plays with a swagger that I haven't seen at Notre Dame in a really long time. It's on offense. It's on defense. It's on special teams. I mean, Max Hurlman is talking trash, right? I mean, but in a good way. Like, we just came down and we tackled you. You can't get anything on a return, that kind of thing. As Xavier Watts is going on his 100-yard interception return, he's looking at the USC sideline, talking as he goes down. Like, this team has a swagger about it that they haven't had in a long time. And it starts at the top. They have absolutely taken on the identity of their head coach. There's no doubt about it. And it's fun to root for a team that has a little bit of juice to them, a little bit of swagger, because that just hasn't been the case at Notre Dame in a really, really long time. And because they take on the identity of their head coach, right? The last head coach didn't operate with swagger. It was a business trip. We're no emotion. We're just going to go out there and we're going to play, that kind of a thing. And that's what he got. That's what he got from his players. They just went out and played. There was no emotion to it. This team has emotion, man. And it makes it so easy to cheer for these guys because they want it. They want it really, really bad. And there were plenty of opportunities in this game where they could have folded up and just been like, you know what? It's not our day out here in SoCal. It's not our game. It's not for us. It is what it is. They're running over us. Their players are just too good. Never happened. Never happened. And I love the fact that it never happened, to be honest with you. And because they didn't allow it to happen. Marcus Freeman didn't allow it to happen. These guys play with a swagger that I love. And talking about things that they have to get fixed, there's absolutely stuff, and we're going to get into it. But I love the fact that they've got 3 weeks to do it. And with this staff and with these players, give them 3 weeks to get adjusted. Give them 3 weeks to get rested. I'm cool with that. They got here. They did what they needed to do. 10 games in a row. They won them. They're in a place now, right? They're in a place where they can go and just watch the chaos around them and just benefit from it. So I'm a pretty happy guy right now. Go ahead, Brian.
You're 100%, Vince. I puckered up like 15 times during that game. I flinched 15 times during that game. They never did.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. The other part of this is, hey, there's no buts to this win, guys. Right? Like, somebody in the chat was like, this is a good win, but no, there's no buts in this, fellas. Have you paid attention to college football the last month? There's no buts in this win. This is a great win, period, because they got it done. USC threw everything at them.
Oh, and more.
Everything at them.
Yeah.
And you lose your star running back who's in the midst of just going off on USC. He goes down, and what happens? Jadarian Price is like, I got you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what this team does, fellas.
Yeah.
Is they say, hey, listen, our dude goes down. No worries. O-line, keep blocking because Jadarian's that dude. You know what I mean? Like, that's the Riley Leonard throws a big pick, and what does he do? He comes right back down and throws a perfect strike for a touchdown. I mean, this team rallies. Defense gives up plays, and then they come back, and when they really need it after the Riley Leonard pick, that's the first time all day they picked up the offense. First and only time all day they picked up the offense. But you know how important that was, though,
yeah.
Vince, that sequence was? Because it could have been like, oh, crap, here we go. We just got on the sidelines, man. Come on, what do we got to do? And then they go out there and make stops. And so, like, again, there's no buts. Like, guys, pay attention to college football the last month.
Exactly.
Right? There are no buts when you have a win like this. When you go on the road against a quality football team who has not lost a single game by more than 7 points all year, whose 5 losses are combined 19 points, right? And you never trailed. You never trailed in the game.
True.
And man, your defense, your best part of your team played terrible. You missed another field goal that was literally just about a chip shot field goal. I mean, extra point attempt. You know, your quarterback makes a terrible I don't know what he was thinking. If he launches that ball down the field,
it's
Chris
a touchdown.
About to run by that guy.
It's a touchdown.
But he didn't flinch though, Vince. That's the thing. He came right back out that next drive. Like I'm going to pull it up here. He comes out, he throws the pick, and defense, you give up a 3-yard completion. They run a slip screen that Jalen Sneed read perfectly, and Josh Burnham did a great job pressuring it. And I had to listen to the officiating crew talk about, I think that might be pass interference. You can tackle a guy behind the line of scrimmage, Gary. I hate to break it to you. Then you run a 3rd and 3, and they turn a tight end wide open on a wheel route. And Josh Burnham makes a huge pass rush, had been abysmal all game from the front 4. But on those 2 plays, right after you throw a pick, Josh Burnham has 2 huge back-to-back plays, and you force an incompletion on a play that might have gone for a touchdown or at least a big play. And then they go for it on 4th and 3. Xavier Watts makes a great play to break it up, and you get the ball back. So defense is stinking the whole game, and they step up when it's needed and get the job done. And then what does Riley Leonard go down and do? He throws a beautiful 23-yard ball to Mitchell Evans. That's just perfectly thrown.
Yeah. And
you say, that's what a great team does. You know, Lou Holtz used to say something, don't flinch. Don't flinch. Don't flinch. Guys, this team hasn't flinched since the first Saturday of a home Saturday of the season.
Yeah.
And since then, they've been a pressure-packed, winner-you-go-home situation, and they have just rolled everybody. And even today, when they did not play good football, they went out and did what was needed to get another double-digit win. And I got to and I was fun and set an all-time scoring record in the process. By the way, regular season scoring record. They needed.
Did they really?
40, yeah, they needed low 40s to get it done.
I think it's 41.
Yeah, 41, and then they got it done.
Okay.
They needed 40 to tie, 41 to pass, right, Trev? That's what it was, and they got 49. Yeah. So I can't tell you, fellas. I'm not proud of this team because, like, I'm not their coach, but I'm gonna tell you right now, if I was their coach, that's the first thing I'd say in that locker room, fellas. I can't be more proud of you guys right now. I cannot be more proud of the job that you guys did today because everything was going against you guys, and we stepped up and did what we needed to do to get this team win. And that's what it was, fellas, a team win.
Yeah.
And that's what great teams do, guys. That's what great teams do.
Look, look, name me another team in the country that just did what Notre Dame did. Like, look at this macro view. Like, that's what Brian, I'm really glad that you said that. It was a great win, but what other team in the country had their back against the wall after week 2 to make the playoff? What team?
What other team? What Notre Dame did.
Right.
Right.
People forget, yes, the defense had a down day. We're going to talk about that. They were also without Howard Cross. They were also without Kingston Viliamasa. And like they have been in most games, they were without Ben Morrison. They were without Boubacar Traore. They were without Jordan Botelho. Xavier Watts went out for a little bit. And your cornerback 1 was having, up until that pick 6, probably his worst game in a Notre Dame uniform.
Great start for Christian. Great finish for Christian. Whole lot of bad in between.
Yeah. But again, like this is something that I've been following this team for a very long time, very closely. Anybody that knows me knows that from September to December, my mood is affected by what happens on Saturdays with this football team. And this season is going to go down for me as one of the ones where I sit back and look at and just be like, I don't know if I've seen something like this before. All the opportunities that this team had to fold. Well, there goes our All-American. There goes our 2 pass rushers. There goes our left tackle. There goes our center. Quarterback's not passing like we want him to. Offense is only scoring 20 points a game. This team had every opportunity.
Lineman injured.
Right. Yeah. Right. Like this team had every opportunity to just pack it in, go 8-4, limp through and have that, oh, well, there's next year mentality. And they didn't. And now they're about to host a home playoff game, potentially as a 5th seed.
Right.
It's fantastic. I mean, it's things that I don't know if this show could go on long enough for me to continue to put it into words. But I'm with you, Brian. I can't say that I'm proud because I'm not their coach or I'm not their dad or you know what I mean?
I'm not part of the team. I can't say that I'm proud.
Right.
But as a fan, boy, you have to respect what they do.
You can still be proud to be a fan, though. You can be proud as a fan. Like, I'm proud to be a fan of this team. You know what I mean? And I think the thing for me is, look, this game was a back and forth thing. You know, while I do think that Notre Dame outplayed USC, it was still back and forth from a score standpoint. And each of the three phases, right? We talk about the three phases all the time: offense, defense, special teams. You got plays out of all three phases, man. Big time plays out of all three phases, right? The offense did their thing. The defense had 2 touchdowns. You know, again, a lot of bad in between at times, but they had 2 big touchdowns at the end. And, you know, the coverage teams were outstanding on special teams, and they had the fake punt.
Outside of one.
And they only got to the 35. Like,
right. But then you kicked off like what, 9 times in this game? 8, 9 times? You're going to get one.
Exactly. And you only punted twice.
Right.
So,
by the way, if they ever do a rugby kick with James Rendell after what we saw today, you're firing the special teams coordinator. I mean, I'm serious. Like that, but the boot he had, the kick he had, Vince, was huge, that 60-yarder. Can I say something else? Christian Gray played an awful football game, and he's the epitome of who this team is. Because he had every reason in the world to say, this ain't my day, it's going to get in my head, and for a little bit there they did. But what happens when the game is on the line? A kid who's dropped 5 interceptions and about 3 pick sixes makes the toughest interception since last year's one-handed grab against Pitt and then houses it, right? Like, isn't that what this team?
Did you guys get BMO vibes? Did you guys get BMO vibes against Clemson on that pick?
When he picked, I was like, dude, he's gonna go, because like it was route.
That was Benjamin Morrison.
All the receivers were in the end zone, Vince. Like, it was like, dude, he's got to beat one guy, and then he's going to go. And I'll tell you what, I almost lost it when I heard they threw a flag. I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. They're going to –
Oh, me
and
too.
And I was like, they're going to call it back. And I just said – I just watched the ref's lip saying, don't say prior to the interception. Don't say prior to the interception. Don't say prior to the interception. If it happened after the pick, I was going to be upset, but I didn't really care. But then they were like, low block. I'm like, low block. And then they were like on the passing team. I was like, oh. Because the quarterback showed it. You can't go low to take a guy out like that.
I get it, but he hit him in the shoulder. But whatever.
Well, he went the quarterback.
Yes, he hit 8. He hit.
I thought he went shoulder. I thought he went low.
He may have gone low,
but but you can't go low. You can't, whether he would dip down or not. But the point though isn't that the epitome of this football team though? 100%. Started off really poorly. Actually had a great first series, and I'm sitting there thinking like. I had 2 tackles for loss and a breakup on the first. I'm thinking, like, man, my player of the game, the Christian Gray's looking like a pretty good prediction right now. And then it was like, nope,
no, it didn't.
And then but then at the end, you know, all the reason in the world to say, "Woe is me," and he steps up and makes that great play.
Yeah,
and puts the game away. I mean, that's what a great team does, guys. You don't play well. USC's literally playing their best game of the season. Everything they're doing is working. And you go out there and you get it done and you win by double digits again.
Mm-hmm.
It's big time. Big time.
All right, fellas. Any more first thoughts before we dive into this thing a little bit more specifically? All right. Well, that's going to do it for our first segment. So make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, that notification bell, share with your family and friends. And, of course, jump on the boards.irishbreakdown.com. It's going to be crazy over the next 3 weeks. I can promise you that. You're definitely going to want to jump on the boards. There's going to be some film breakdowns in there. There's going to be some season-long breakdowns on there. There's going to be great discussion on there. All kinds of good stuff. Best bet your money can buy, no doubt about it. And tomorrow starts December, so you can officially start thinking about Christmas gifts. And a membership to Irish Breakdown should be high on your list if you're not already a member. So make sure you get on it. All right, fellas, let's jump into the offense. I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to talk offense as a whole, and then we'll come back around and we'll kind of talk about kind of a position by position as much as we can without watching the film. But, you know, offensively, your thoughts on how things went, how it started, how it went, and then how it finished offensively. Brian, I'll let you lead off on the offense.
Appreciate that, Vince.
Do what I can.
I thought when they came out of the gate, I was like, oh, this is going to be a blowout. I mean, I really did. The way that they went down the field on that first drive, and it was just like it was easy. I mean, they were pushing them off the line with the O-line.
The O-line was
talk about
moving.
Pass pro here in a minute, but like just first down, second down, first down, second down. Actually, that's the defense. First down, second down, 3rd and 4. You complete. Great play call. Got in motion. Chris Mitchell goes underneath. You run a clear out. He gets an easy first down, second down, first down, second down, first down, second down, 3rd and 2. Quarterback draw gets it. First down, second and goal, touchdown. I mean, it was clockwork. 13 plays, just like no big deal. Right down the field. Offensive line played really well against what I thought was, and then I thought you kind of saw what USC was doing. They were doing. I thought I saw some bear fronts, first and second down in this game. There's some 5-man fronts. I thought Notre Dame did some really nice things offensively to try to go at that. You know, the screen game was, Denbrock saw that they were going to be going after him with the screen game, and he got that involved in the game. You saw the check down to Jeremiah Love because they were running 4 verts, clear out. You take that check down. I thought that was really well done. And then you come out of halftime, and you're getting a lot of pressure from USC guys off the edge, and they're trying to stunt. So what does Denbrock do on the first play in the second half? They run just a quick guard pull kick out and just trap play, just right underneath and goes for 10 yards. And it just was like stuff like that. I thought that they went into run the clock out mode a little too early in the fourth quarter.
Agreed.
That
it was
was
like
my
8 minutes.
complaint.
It was like 8 minutes to go, something like that. Like I wanted another score.
Yeah. I mean, I understood it. You're at your own 10.
I get it.
I mean, but
still,
I would have taken maybe a little bit more of a shot there. But I thought they were physical. I thought the run game had some nice mix-ups. They were inside zone. They ran some duo. They ran some outside zone. They brought counter back. We hadn't really seen a lot of counter in the last month. They brought that back and had a couple big runs on it, and just did what they continue to do, guys, which is just run the ball down people's throats. I mean, we talked about this. I'm going to pull up my stat breakdown that I did before the game, my keys to victory, because when you look at the USC rush defense, look at this number, guys. USC, let me pull it up here. Since their so who was the team that they played right before Penn State? I believe, was that Minnesota? That was the Minnesota game, right? Since the Minnesota game, so going back to, that'd be their last 6 games. So 1, 2, 3, 4, last 6 games. Penn State or USC has only given up 106.3 yards per game and 3.6 yards per carry. And in that Penn State game against the Nittany Lions, they gave up only 118 yards on 31 carries. Notre Dame was way past that by halftime. And so when you see that and you're just like, USC knew they were going to run, they tried to stop it, but Notre Dame had a game plan to go at it and went right at it. And I thought Jeremiah Love set the tone for how this game was going to go just by running hard, and so I thought, and you just saw that the whole game. They were sloppy at times. They had some misses. They lost some individual battles, but they competed hard. And they went out there and moved USC around. And I thought some of the quick passing game was good. You had some drops that hurt you once again. But I thought there was, there's going to be things I'm going to talk about tomorrow, Vince, in the Upon Further Review, where I'm like, I didn't like this sequence of play calls and things like that. But I thought overall, Mike Denbrock had a really good game plan for USC. Getting that quick stuff out to the perimeter against off coverage, doing a good job of finding different ways to run at their blitz and beat their blitz with some screen games out of the running back. I thought that was big in this game. They had a really efficient first down pass game design in this game as well. Some tunnel screens to also go at the blitz because they knew they were going to get heavy run stunts on first down. So you saw some of that stuff. I thought it was a very well-designed game by Mike Denbrock. And you end the game despite having some short possessions and trying to milk the clock at the end. You go for 436 yards and 7.1 yards per play. And it's just another game of just getting it done against a team that had been playing a lot better football, honestly. And so and then I thought the second half adjustments were really good too, guys, to just kind of find different ways to kind of go at what they're doing. You came back out and you just kind of went down their throat. You had the 10-yard run on the kickout play. You had a little miscommunication between Chris Mitchell and Riley Leonard. I think Riley thought he was going to stay outside. Chris Mitchell worked a slant. Incomplete pass. 2nd and 10 gets +6. 3rd and 4. Chris Mitchell does a great job working open on a sprint out play where, again, USC is not the most disciplined team. We talked about that, Trev, you and I, in Keys to Victory with different things. He gets open, do a great job there. nice 4-yard gain, and then you blitz. They bring a corner blitz, and they just hit a quick zone they spread USC out, which is kind of what they've done. They bring a corner fire on 2nd and 6. They've been showing a lot of second down pressures, so they run a quick inside zone, and he cuts right inside of the pressure and just untouched to the end zone. Like, I just thought that sequence of events showed kind of where Mike Denbrock was and the things that he did to kind of go at them. And, you get your first 2 possessions, you get scores. And the other thing, too, that I thought he did is Trev, you and I talked about this yesterday, and Vince, we'll go into more detail on specifics tomorrow and upon further review. But one of the keys to victory was get creative with your running backs and tight ends in the pass game. And they absolutely did that. And then also use your tight ends against their 6-foot linebackers. And what was the Mitchell Evans Eli Raridan touchdown? It was your 6'7" receiver in the slot, or tight end in the slot, against their 6-foot linebacker who can't cover, and Eli Raridan smokes them. And then their safeties, we talked about the same thing. Their safeties can't cover either. You get Mitchell Evans in a one-on-one, great recognition by Riley Leonard to see that you had that matchup. And he wasn't wide open, but he was open. And so Riley got the ball out to him, and the one to Mitchell Evans.
Yeah,
and so your tight ends have 7 catches for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns, yeah.
You have Jeremiah Love has 3 catches for 38 yards. Part of them were you had the slip screen.
Yep.
Great block by Rocco Spindler on that by was it Pat Coogan? Pat Coogan on that, where he worked around and sealed the guy, and Jeremiah goes, you get the check down for a big play. So, we talk about how important it was to take advantage of where they're not good. And your running backs have a total of 11 catches. Your running backs and tight ends have a total of 11 catches for over 100 yards. I mean, there's some stuff I'm going to say, hey, I'd have done this here, I'd have done that there. But guys, you scored, you did what you needed to do. And just a strong performance by the Notre Dame offense, go over 7 yards a catch. And like I had a buddy of mine text me because they need to find some ways to get explosives in this game. And this was like right before the interception. And then right after that, you go 35-yard gain for Jadarian Price, 23-yard touchdown by Mitchell Evans. You're like, okay, check. Got that done. Yeah, and as somebody in the chat just pointed out, I was going to get to this when we got to special teams because I'm not giving Tyler Buckner a shout-out during offense. I wasn't going to, but since somebody brought it up, how great was it to see Tyler Buckner get a chance to make that play and got it out there? I mean, that was a ballsy call by Marcus Freeman. You're deep in your own territory. Ballsy call. And
teams still haven't figured out to look for 26 on special teams.
And then the other one, guys, was 4th down. They were in their own territory on 4th down, and they went for it and got it. Yeah. And it just shows you the faith that Marcus Freeman has on his football team. And it was a throw, too.
Right. It was a throw.
Right.
Like, faked out the entire stadium, let's be honest with you, because I think all of us figured it was probably going to be either a Riley Leonard up the middle or running back or whatever. And that's what USC thought too. And nope, Faison, he's got it.
And that was what they did to convert a 4th down against Louisville. You guys remember back that with Jaden Thomas back then, little sprint out to the left. To your point, because you're getting a lot of inside pressures, they think it's going to be a run. You get outside of it, boom, and you just. It just shows the faith that Marcus Freeman has in his football team. And I also think this game showed that Mike Denbrock is finally kind of the faith he has in Riley Leonard to turn to him in some key situations today as a passer. Swagger comes from a lot of different things, guys. And one of those things that comes from is when you as a player know that your coaches have the utmost faith in you. And today's game showed that this Notre Dame coaching staff has the utmost faith in their players, including that interception by Christian Gray at the end. I mean, you're in a one-on-one, despite the fact you've been getting smoked all day. But Dow Golden said, I believe in this kid, and we're going to give him a chance to go make a play, and he did. But offensively, guys, I just thought that they were the more physical team today. They bullied USC a little bit. USC played hard. I give USC a lot of credit. They played hard. They didn't get punked by Notre Dame. They did get bullied by Notre Dame.
Agreed.
And they kept battling for 60 minutes, which is what they've done all year. But Notre Dame was just the more physical, punishing team today. And USC knew what was coming. They knew they were going to run on them. And Notre Dame still went out, ran for 258 yards and 6.8 yards per play. Think about this too, guys. They took a knee at the end for -2. They otherwise they would have had 37 carries for 260 yards against a team that in the last half of the season they've only given up 106 yards per game. And actually, I'm going to give this little nugget to you guys. USC, since the Penn State game, had not given up more than 268 yards, had not given up 258 yards in back-to-back games. If you look at their 2-game stretches since USC, they had not given up more than the most they had given up was 234 in back-to-back games, combined in back-to-back games rushing. Notre Dame went for 258 today, and USC knew exactly what was going to happen. And they did that with their star running back getting hurt early in the third quarter.
I just love the fact that Notre Dame's first play is like a 13-yard gain on the ground every game at this point. Like,
it's just running right at you too, Vince. It's not like a jet sweep reverse. It's just we're running inside zone right down your freaking throat.
Gonna hand it to this guy and see what you can do. Like, it just sets the tone for the game. But Trevor, thoughts on the offense overall? Brian hit a bunch of points, but your thoughts?
You know, it's funny because I was told all season long that once Notre Dame played this opponent.
I love when Trevor gets petty. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, you know, I keep my receipts. They're all kind of up here, but I keep all of my receipts. I was told that Notre Dame's offense wouldn't be able to win like this. And I was told that they have to have some sort of number one receiver, and they shouldn't hit too many different receivers in a game, and they need to have a guy, and they're not going to beat these top-level teams if Riley Leonard can't pass for 250 yards, and they're just not going to be able to get it done. Well, here we are, 10 straight wins later, and they are playing much more efficient football, I will say, but stat sheet and box score looks pretty much the same. This is a testament to me to Mike Denbrock and getting to know his players on offense and knowing what's going to work for them and playing to their skill sets and playing to their strengths. I mean, what's funny, and I looked this up to make sure that I wasn't spewing any BS, but after the Miami of Ohio game, Notre Dame had 36 rushes for 270 yards. Today, Notre Dame had 38 rushes for 258 yards. Riley Leonard passed for 155 yards today against Miami of Ohio. He passed for 154. Mike Denbrock found a way to win with an offense that wasn't going to be what we all thought that it was going to be at the start of the year. And that's a testament to coaching. That's a testament to these are the guys that I need to get to know, and I need to be familiar with them. And I need to find different ways to get them creative and how to win. So he puts them in better positions. They're playing more efficient football because in the Miami of Ohio game, they scored 28 offensive points. And against USC, they scored 35 offensive points, right? So there have been a lot of improvements. I don't want to say that this is the exact same offense that it was when Notre Dame played Miami of Ohio, but conceptually, it's still the same. And I think that's a huge testament to coaching. Like I said at the start of the show, Notre Dame played a game where for the first time all season, I was not nervous when the offense got the ball. You know what I mean?
I was confident.
One of us.
I was confident when the offense got the ball.
I wasn't.
I was.
Like after the first drive of the game, I was like, okay, they can move the ball. Notre Dame only stopped Notre Dame on offense until the final drive of the third quarter.
I do think that forced fumble was a great play by the defender, like putting his helmet on the football.
Oh, 100%.
But to your point, it was still a turnover, Trev.
Yeah. I mean, it's still a turnover. What was it a great play? I think it was. For me, I hate fumbles. Like, you have the ball in your possession now. Like, when you play up against other players, you know, they're going to make good plays too. I understand that. But again, it's not like Notre Dame was outmatched by any means. You know what I mean? Like, it was just Notre Dame only stopped Notre Dame until the last series of the third quarter and then the first series of the fourth quarter, and then the defense took it over from there. But offensively today, they showed me something that they're able to compete in shootout games to where it was kind of, you know what, when this other team kind of punches back, we got you. We'll go out there. We'll take care of business. We'll do what we need to do. We'll drive the ball down the field. I will say, to get a little nitpicky, I do think they kind of went into their shell a little bit too early in the fourth quarter. I get it. You're on the 10-yard line, but you had been able to move the ball like kind of at will against them throughout the game. And so that was a little frustrating to watch. But overall, I think the offense played great. Got the defense out of a lot of sticky situations, which honestly, I think led to Notre Dame's defense being able to make those plays at the end of the game. Your defense, despite giving up big plays and penalties and big chunk yards, and you gave up over 300 yards through the air when you gave up 139.5 average on the season, your offense was playing well enough that your defense was still able to play somewhat free and go through and make those plays at the end of the game, which really sealed it. So overall, I'm really happy with what I saw from the offense today, and it's great things to build on.
Can I say one thing, Vince? So Notre Dame is going to finish the regular season, with a rushing average of 224.8 yards per game and a 6.32 yards per play average, rushing average, excuse me. If you look at the two best rushing seasons Notre Dame has had in the last 20 years, the 2016 team, the 2017 team went for more yards. They were at 269.31 because they ran the ball a lot more. That team, as explosive as that offense was, they averaged 6.25 yards per carry. This team finished the regular season 6.32. And the 2015 offense averaged 5.6 yards per carry. You remember how explosive that was? And ran for 207.6 yards per game. And this run, and did that despite losing your starting left tackle in preseason, your starting center in the third game of the year for the year, and you missed a third of the season, your starting left guard, who was expected to be your best blocker for a third of the season. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, for me, start talking about the offense, big picture, and all that. I have to echo a little bit about what Trevor was saying about the offense. I felt good about when the offense got the football. I really did, from a scheme standpoint, from a offensive line standpoint, from a execution standpoint. I liked where the offense was. The one thing that the announcers actually said that made any sense, because it was a little rough at times, but the one thing they said that made sense is it was kind of like a tennis match. It was back and forth there for a little while, and who's going to hold serve? Like, who is going to hold serve? And Notre Dame held serve. Like, USC scored, Notre Dame scored. USC scored, Notre Dame scored. And Notre Dame had that one up, and then they continued to score. And they won because of the offense there, because the offense kept scoring, right? And we had of course, we had our group chat going back and forth, and we're talking about this game as it's going on. And, I think, Trevor, you're the one that said it's like, we've been waiting for a game, or we knew a game was coming where the offense was going to have to pick up the defense. At some point, that was going to have to happen. And they did. Like, the offense picked up the defense in this game. Now, the defense went down and made some plays at the end. Obviously, big plays, huge plays, no doubt about it. But the offense continuously picked up the defense in this game. We haven't been able to say that in a really long time at Notre Dame. Just haven't. And it always felt like if the defense was bad, then the offense was probably going to be bad too. If the defense was good, they were putting the offense in good position, and the offense was going down and they were scoring. And I'm talking about previous years, not this year. Today, the offense looked like a playoff-worthy offense, okay? I'll say that. They look like a playoff-worthy offense, okay? USC was bringing all kinds of stuff at Notre Dame defensively. They were showing different fronts. They were bringing stunts. They were doing all kinds of stuff to Notre Dame, and they just kept matriculating the ball down the field. I mean, they had some drives in this game that it wasn't like the defense was putting them in short fields. That's the biggest thing for me. It was 13 plays, 72 yards, 7 plays, 65 yards, 6 for 75, 6 for 75, 3 for 62. Like, these were drives that the offense was putting together. It wasn't, the defense picked it off. They gave it to us on the 10-yard line. We got to punch it in. Or, we got it in the plus territory. We got to punch it in. Like, yeah, they need to do that. And they've done that throughout the year, and they've been getting knocked on. They've been getting knocked on for that this year. It's like, the defense keeps putting them in good positions, but the offense scores in those good positions. This time, the offense was scoring on sustained drives pretty much the entire game until they kind of, I think, again, like Trevor said, a little too early, kind of, put it into, like, okay, we're going to slow it down here a little bit. But I like where this offense is. And, we're going to talk about the defense in a little bit, so I'm not going to go there yet, but I like where the offense is. I think this offense can play with anybody, because I was talking to another buddy of mine during the game, and he's like, I'm nervous about this. I'm nervous about that. And I said, name me a defense right now that you don't have faith that Notre Dame's going to be able to run the ball against. Name one. He couldn't. And I feel good about Notre Dame being able to run the ball against everybody. And they pass when they have to, and it works. So, overall, offensively, I'm happy with where this team is right now.
I will say this. if Notre Dame's going to play 4 more games, there will come a game that their pass game will have to step up and be better.
I completely agree.
There will be one. And we'll see what happens when that time comes. But, even there today, guys, the pass game was efficient.
Mm-hmm.
And Riley went 17 of 22 for 155 yards.
77% completion percentage.
The biggest beef that I'll have is I thought the pass pro was really suspect today. Real suspect. Well, and that's where I'm going to give Mike Denbrock a lot of credit because he saw that early. They're bringing a lot of pressure. They're mixing up their coverages. Our O-line's just not feeling it right now in pass pro, so he didn't do anything. He didn't do a lot of things that got them going because, if the pass pro is better, he hits a deep in cut to Jaden Harrison that might go for a 60.
Because he's getting hit as he throws it. Yeah, right.
I think that's when Denbrock was like, all right. You know what I mean? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do some ISO stuff. We're going to do this. We can't run those longer developing deep in cuts so we're going to take some, the 2 deep shots. The one deep shot he hit to Mitchell Evans was a drop back, hit your rhythm, and boom, let her go. It wasn't something that required him to stop and read it like a deep in cut like the Jaden. I mean, Jaden Harrison, there was nobody else on the screen if you look at that play.
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
And so those are things you're going to have to do a better job of down the road. But I mean, there were some guys getting open at times from what I could see, and I'll go back and watch the film. It's just quarterback didn't have time. But I thought Mike Denbrock saw that and was like, okay, we got to accept because you can say all you want. Well, we need to pass pro better. I get that, but you're not, and you need to play call accordingly. Right. And I thought we saw that today.
Let's transition this since you brought it up. We'll transition to the offensive line right there because you started talking about pass pro. You started talking about some of their struggles in pass pro. Let's just talk about offensive line, your thoughts. Again, we like to go back and watch the film, especially for the offensive line. Certain things are obvious, right? But then there's some nuanced things that we want to check out. But your thoughts on the offensive line. You can start with pass pro if you want, and then, kind of move over to run blocking.
Well, pass pro was just very inconsistent. And it wasn't just the offensive line. There was an early Aeneas Williams got beat on a pass pro early that resulted in a pressure. Even when they weren't giving up direct pressures, they were getting pushed back a little bit too much. And, one time Riley was able to step away and scramble on a play where Billy Strouth gave up a pressure, but that you could just tell they weren't going to be able to. USC was beating them on the edge. USC was bringing some pressures. You had the one corner fire that nobody picked up, which I don't know if the protection was set where anyone was going to be able to pick that up. That's just, hey, you know what? Great play call by the defensive coordinator. So what happens? Riley Leonard makes the cornerback miss and runs for 4 yards, right? I mean, sometimes you just got to trust number 13 to say, hey, dude, go make a play. So, that part wasn't there, guys. But the reason Riley only got sacked once in the game, I believe, is because until that moment, even when they were getting beat, they were still – and that on that particular play, Anthony Knapp just whiffed on the outside, the outside pressure. He just whiffed. He was looking inside and then tries to step out. He steps out slow. He gets beat. But every other time they gave up a pressure, it was a pressure where you were giving up a pressure, but you were engaged with someone, which allowed Riley Leonard a lot of times to get the check down out, to get the ball off, to scramble, to do something different. So it didn't hurt you as much, but it did limit your pass game because there were plenty of times, or at least several times, that I saw guys coming open that you just couldn't get there. I'll go back and check out the film, but I thought the pass pro was clearly an issue in this game, and USC went after that. But they didn't let it affect the rest of their game because in the run game, they were bullies today. And there's a couple times there's some things you're going to have to go back and clean up this, clean up that. And we'll have plenty to talk about that tomorrow. But just little things like you're running a counter and the edge player crashes hard. Rocco hits him, logs him, allows Jeremiah Love to bounce it outside for a good gain. Just not a crushing block, but just do your job. And he did his job physically with some force. You had that one inside zone to the right where Coogan comes off and him and Rocco get a real nice push double team and Jeremiah early and it just cuts right behind it. I mean, the running backs are showing so much faith in the offensive line. That's why they're patient. And when they give them a crease, the running backs hit it, man. So yeah, you didn't have it today in pass pro. We'll break all that down. That was concerning. That limited the offense a little bit. But if you're not going to be pass blocking great, you better be run blocking great. And they certainly did that. And I mean, they were over 200 rushing yards today, even if you take out scrambles, because Riley had the 24-yard gain on the scramble. They were well over 200 yards today, even if you take out scrambles. And we're able to punch it in the red zone, in the goal line situation, something they couldn't do last week, right? They ended up going in and punching it in this game, so you overcame that. But that was the thing, is physically they beat USC up, and USC guys played hard. I'm gonna give USC a lot of credit today. They played hard. They absolutely played hard, and Notre Dame was just bigger and stronger and better. And the execution, from what I could tell in the run game, was really good. And when USC usually stopped them, there was even a play like where Rocco gets knocked off the ball. He gets knocked back a step, but he doesn't let go. He doesn't get off the block. The defender doesn't. And so Dadarian goes for 4 yards. I mean, in week 3, week 2, week 4, that's a minus 1 yard gain, because Rocco doesn't sustain that block and he comes off and he tackles him at or behind the line of scrimmage. But in this game, it's a 4 yard gain because Rocco said, "You got me, but you're not getting off me." And that's something that I thought was big part of this game. Big part of this game.
Trevor, thoughts on the big boys?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat as you guys. I need to go back and watch the all-22 to really dive in, like, individually who played well, who didn't. But if I'm just giving like initial eye test grades, I mean, run blocking for me is at least an A-. You don't do what you did to that type of defense that has a pretty good rush defense. You don't go for that many yards if you don't play a really good game, if I'm just being 100% honest. Anthony Knapp had one where he finished a guy pretty handily. That was awesome to see. Nice little pancake block to add to the stat sheet. From a pass protection standpoint, I mean, I'm going to say this unfortunately, but I didn't learn anything new about this offensive line when it comes to pass protection. It's kind of the same, they're decent sometimes. They're really bad at other times. They're okay other times. So that is something that's going to need addressed over the next 3 weeks. I will say, like, if there's one area of improvement glaring that I can look at and say for this team to take that next step, is at least for the passing game to take that next step. The offensive line and pass protection, and just pass protection in general, is going to have to be better down the road. And Notre Dame was able to overcome that today. They were, but there will come a time where this level of performance in pass protection is not going to be enough. You know what I mean? I don't know when that's going to be. It could be the first round of the playoffs. It could be in the national championship. Like, who knows? I don't know when that comes, but it will at some point. But overall, I think the offensive line played well today, especially in the run game. Like you talked about, Brian, if you're going to play poorly in one area, you kind of have to make up for it in another. And in the run game, they definitely did. They looked to be the aggressor. They took it to USC, which is something that I talked about in Keys to Victory. Don't be stagnant. Don't wait to be punched so you can figure out how to counterpunch. Just take it to them. And they did on the first offensive drive. One thing that I thought that was notable, one of the reasons why I wasn't really worried about the offense today as a whole, is when Jeremiah Love, now mind you, it took 2 to 3 USC defenders to stop him anyways, but when he would get stopped up, right behind him almost immediately, there was 2 offensive linemen ready to push him forward a little bit. And that's something that I will say that I have not seen a lot of this year from this offensive line. It's they do their job. Yeah. Right. They do their job. They're good at the point of attack, and then they're kind of just watching. It was because
wasn't it you that said you never see like an offensive lineman picking up the running back like early on in the season? Like that has completely changed.
Yeah.
That has completely changed at this point.
Yeah. No, it has. And Vince, to your point, it's just they're playing with a different type of swagger. Earlier in the year, everybody was talking about what identity does this offense have? What can we expect from this team? Because week in and week out, like, we don't really know, right? We didn't know what to expect. Was Riley Leonard going to throw for 3 passing touchdowns, or was the running back room going to combine for 6? Like, what's going to happen this week? And now I think this team is starting to get somewhat of an identity around who they want to be, and they're doing it at the right time. So that's kind of my takeaways on the offensive line. Again, I'm with you guys. I kind of have to go back and look and see who individually played well, but in the run game, they were fantastic tonight.
Go ahead, Vince.
I was just going to say, I don't have a whole lot to add to both of what you guys said, but I do think that this offensive line is starting to shape the identity of this offense. And, you know, they're not perfect in pass pro. And to be honest with you, they never will be this year. They're just not going to be. And I think there will be games where they play better than they have, or, you know, that kind of a thing, but they're only going to be playing good defenses from here on out. So, you know, for the most part, I see your eyes, Brian.
No, I'm thinking through who's going to be in.
Like,
I'm not like, you're
okay.
sure about, I mean, Miami might get knocked out, so that they don't have a good defense. I get that.
Right.
Vince, that was my thinking.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
That was not are you sure about that, Ben? No.
Sorry. But no, look, but I think that to your point earlier, Brian, I think Mike Denbrock also understands who this team is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, you know, the guys up front, they're playing with a swagger in the run game. They are. And that kind of carries over to pass pro at times. It does. It needs to be better overall. But I just think you have to understand who you are and what you have. And that's where Notre Dame is offensively right now as it pertains to the offensive line. And I think, look, they can still be explosive with the offensive line that they have. They can absolutely be explosive with this. And it takes the right kind of play caller. And I think Notre Dame has that in Mike Denbrock. We see it in game. We see him changing in game from what he kind of wants to do to what he kind of has to do, and therefore then gets into what he wants to do out of what he has to do, if that makes any kind of sense. It made sense in my head. But this offensive line is who they are. They're getting better in the run game every single week, and they're getting a swagger about them every single week. And I think that they get excited about running the football. I do. I think they're in there saying to Joe Rudolph and to Mike Denbrock, run the ball. Like, run the ball behind us. Let's go. Like, run the ball. And I think they take pride in that. And I think that's awesome. And I think it shows when you watch these guys play. Again, I want to go back and look at it. I want to see, you know, some of the mistakes that were made. And there were some run-throughs. And there were some issues and some things of that nature. But overall, from where this team started offensively, from an offensive line standpoint, to where they are now, I couldn't be happier. I'll be real honest with you. I had some large concerns in August, some large concerns about this offensive line, and they've gotten better than I ever thought that they would. So I'm actually happy overall, like the macro view, like Trevor likes to say, the macro view of the offensive line. I couldn't be happier right now. You know, micro view, there's things to clean up. And again, give them 3 weeks, let them get healthy, let them, you know, understand who they're going to be playing against. And I like where this team is going to be from an offensive line standpoint. Let's go to the running backs, because I know this is going to be positive. So let's talk running backs, fellas. Trevor, I'll let you lead this one off. Running backs. I mean, you got two guys that, well, Jeremiah Love didn't technically go over 100. He had 99. But you had two running backs that essentially...
He went well over 100 yards of offense.
Well, that's fair enough.
38 yards of receiving.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
2.5 quarters.
So over 100 yards of total offense for each of the running backs. And if you want to talk about Riley Leonard as a running back, he had 50 yards on the ground as well. So, Trevor, I give you the floor.
I didn't think at this point in the season I was going to learn anything new about Jeremiah Love, and I did today. Which is crazy to think with the type of season and how explosive that he has been this year. I was like, yeah, we got Jeremiah Love. He's an explosive guy. He can jump over grown men. What I didn't think that he had in his bag, at least not to the extent that he showed today, is how just physical of a runner that he was. And I thought, you know, there's been runs that kind of alluded to where he could be if he chose to be, you know, but I didn't know what that was going to look like from him. And man, today he showed a different level of patience. He showed a different level of strength. He finished runs. He was running through and over people and refused to go down. And the thing that I love, talking more and more and more about the attitude and the swagger of this team, Jeremiah Love's a relatively quiet player. He doesn't get up and chirp a whole lot. I mean, he might, at least not that I see on camera or anything. Man, today he was letting people hear it. I'm so upset that he got hurt in this game, because he might have put up some ridiculous numbers if he stayed healthy, because you could tell he was feeling himself. He was letting USC know that he was feeling himself, because like they could do nothing to stop him, and they wanted no part of him. And that was awesome to see. And once he went out, Jadarian Price comes in and then also goes into the triple digits. That's what this Notre Dame team has been all year, and it's been crazy. It's, oh man, thank goodness. You know, in other teams, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I never hope for anybody to get hurt. Let me be very clear about that. I never hope any player gets hurt. But there was a sigh of relief when I was like, oh, Woody Marks isn't playing the rest of this game. Okay, well, now you're kind of just worrying about Quentin Joyner. You know what I mean? And I feel like other teams don't have that luxury in concerns with Notre Dame. So you can't say, oh, thank goodness, Four's out. He was tearing us up. Who's next? Oh, the guy that averages the most yards per carry on the team. Cool. Great. Right. Can't wait. So the running back room as a whole was fantastic today. And I liked how they used the rotation. In a game that Notre Dame had to win, outside of a couple plays, it was just Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price on the field tonight. And that was something that I wanted to see. All year is like, I understand the running back rotation and I understand why to do it. But, you know, in previous games in the season, it was a lot of, all right, you know, Jeremiah Love is going to get X amount of snaps. Jadarian Price is going to get X amount of snaps. Aeneas Williams will get some. Devin Ford's going to get some. This was a game where I think from jump, they're like, hey, 424, you guys are going to have a big weekend this weekend.
They rode those two.
Yep. And rightfully so, because USC's defense wanted nothing to do with either of them. So it was great. It was fantastic. I liked how they were utilized. I like Jeremiah Love in the passing game. If he didn't go out with that injury, midway through the third quarter, I think
it was on their first play of their second drive.
Okay.
It was a little check down pass. I believe that was the last play he was on.
Yep. But again, USC's defense wanted nothing to do with him. They didn't want to touch him. They physically couldn't. So it was another game. And honestly, I like the mindset of it because Notre Dame didn't have a game for 3 weeks. And you can tell they called it as such of a, hey, we kind of lightened your load throughout the season, 4 games like this, and we're going to give you guys a pretty heavy workload today. So I'm happy with what I saw from the running backs today.
Yeah, I mean, the running backs were dynamic. I mean, they've been dynamic all year, but now that, like I said, that the offensive line is also coming into their own. Like, look, these two guys that Notre Dame lines up in the backfield, they don't need much, right? There was a run that Jeremiah Love had, I think, early on in the game where he there wasn't much of a hole, but he got skinny and he got through the hole and had a big gain. That's all he needs, right? That's really all that Jadarian Price needs as well. These guys don't need much. If you get a hat on a hat, you get in the way for a split second, these guys are going to burn you. And Notre Dame hasn't had a 1-2 punch like this in a really long time. Go ahead.
And I know that there's going to be some USC fans that are like, you got to tackle better. And I'm like, guys, we have heard that literally from every single opponent that Notre Dame has played this year. I remember having this conversation with a guy who covers Georgia Tech, and he was like, man, you got to tackle better. I was like, buddy, go watch every game they've played this year.
Right.
And every defense says the same exact thing. Because it's not even just like, oh, they're opening up big holes and they run straight through. I mean, they can make people miss. I mean, Jadarian had that one really nice cut. Jeremiah leaps over it, embarrasses a dude. I mean, it's just one of those things. And you talk about the performance.
Riley Leonard was forcing guys to miss tackles.
Right. Riley Leonard needs to stop leaving his feet ever. That was like.
What was that anyway?
I have no idea.
I think it was just he didn't want to take a big hit maybe, but it was just like.
Hold me. But the two running backs today, guys, combined for 210 yards on 25 carries. That's 8.4 yards per carry.
Yeah.
The longest run was only 36 yards. It wasn't like they ripped off like 180-yard run. Like was it Quentin Dunbar had a game against USC or against Penn State where he had a bunch of yards, but he had a 75-yard touchdown run. You know, but I mean, they said, hey, we're going to ride 25 and 1. And if you really look at the numbers, Vince, they combined for, let's see here, 210 plus rushing yards, 37 receiving yards. They combined for 247 yards of offense today. The two running backs and 2 touchdowns. Like that is I mean, look, when you in a game like this, you're where the season's on the line, you ride the horses that got you there. Right. And that's what Mike Denbrock and Dylan Mulcully did today. We're here on offense because of 4 and 24. And that's exactly what they did. And, it's like, yeah, if you're a defense, that's got to be like a helpless feeling like, oh, 4's not in the game. And you're like, oh, this guy's actually faster. You know what I mean? Like, this guy has even more big runs per attempts, than number 4. And, you're thinking like you mentioned it, Trev, Quentin Dunbar actually played pretty well, 10 carries for 83 yards, but he's a change of pace situational guy.
Yep.
You lose a guy like Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price steps in and has 12 carries for 111 yards and just like, doesn't matter. He rips off a 36-yard touchdown run. It just, it's like we were joking last week when he scored from 2 yards out. You're like, wait a second. I didn't know Jadarian's allowed to touch the ball within 20 yards of the red zone, of the end zone. What's going on here? Like his 2-yard and 10-yard touchdowns last week really killed his yards per carry average. And that's the thing is Notre Dame is going to end the season with 2 running backs that are averaged over 7 yards a carry on the season. 2. Not 1, 2. 2 running backs that played a bunch, that carried the ball a bunch, are going to finish with over 7 yards a carry. Jadarian came into the game with 77 carries. He was at 701 yards per carry. He finished with 9.3. Jeremiah Love came into the game with 850 yards on 121 carries. He finished with he had 7.02 yards per carry. He finished the game with 7.6. So Jadarian Price is going to finish the year with 651 yards rushing and an over a 7 yards per carry average. And Jeremiah Love is going to finish with 949 yards in the regular season and 15 touchdowns. And Jadarian Price had 7 rushing touchdowns. Like if you tell me there's a better running back group in the country, I'm either going to say A, you're a homer, B, you haven't watched this group, or C, you're a liar. Because there's not a better 1-2 punch at running back in the country than these 2 kids. There isn't one.
Yeah, I've got nothing else to say. That was fantastic. Let's talk about the pass catchers. We can talk. This is where we talk tight ends. We talk receivers. You can even throw in some more love for the running backs if you really want to. But let's talk pass catchers. Trevor, I'll let you lead this one off. Or did I let Trevor lead off last time?
No, I just went on a long rant. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Okay.
I'm like, dude, what the hell? It's all good.
I never know, man. I never know. I mean, paychecks are coming out here soon. I don't want to make you mad.
Paychecks are coming out.
Right, Trev's already got submitted, so he's good. He's good.
So, Trevor, pass catchers, man, hit it.
Oh, man. Yeah. I thought the receivers today, that's another position that I want to go back and watch the all-22 so I can see things better down the field. The one blatant one was when, unfortunately, Rocco Spindler missed the block and Riley Leonard wasn't able to get the ball to Jaden Harrison, who had nobody within 25 yards
that would have
of him.
Such a huge play.
Yeah. Well, I'll start with the positives first and foremost. One, I think the tight ends collectively, at least Eli Raridan and Mitchell Evans, had probably their best. The tight end room probably had their best game of the season.
Agreed.
7 catches for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. I mean, those are the only receiving touchdowns
on 8 targets.
Right.
Yeah. I thought that the tight ends played exceptional today. And we had all talked about it a couple weeks ago. And Mitchell Evans was one of the guys that Notre Dame kind of needed to get going and start getting the offense going in the latter half here down the stretch leading into the playoffs. And what does he have now? 3-4 touchdown receptions in the last 4 games? Yeah. 3.
Which is funny because I think, Trevor, didn't you say like in one of the shows, like you thought he was going to like score a lot of touchdowns and he ended up with 3. Mm-hmm. He had 3 in the last 4 games. He had 1 against Florida State, 1 against Virginia, and then 1 today.
Yep. And it was interesting because,
by the way, he had 2 career touchdown catches coming into the season.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I said. I was like, if Mitchell Evans can start scoring touchdowns, it's going to bode extremely, extremely well for Notre Dame's offense. And we kind of had a discussion about it just because like he had never been the touchdown guy. Like he was more of he'll go 8 for 85 yards with no touchdowns. But now
in between the 20s.
Right. And now he's become a legitimate red zone threat, which is really, really exciting. I thought the tight ends played really well. Chris Mitchell kind of has turned into a very quiet, reliable guy for Riley Leonard down the stretch. And I think that's something that needs to be noticed. I mean, he's not doing what we thought he was going to when he came to South Bend, but this entire offense didn't do, outside of Jeremiah Love and Jadari Price, but this entire offense hasn't really done what we thought it was going to look like this year. And that goes to Chris Mitchell being an adaptive player, and it goes to Mike Denbrock finding ways to get his playmakers the football, even if it's not in the capacity that we thought that it was going to be, which is just another, again, testament to coaching. I would like to see, and I know I brought it up earlier, that Notre Dame plays in a way that they don't need to have just one receiver go, 7 catches for $145 and a touchdown, the way that their offense is set up. But I do believe that down the stretch in the playoffs, they will kind of need that go-to pass catcher. Now, that could be Mitchell Evans. I'll put him in there. There could be a game where Jeremiah Love needs to be more of a receiving threat than he does, be a threat on the ground. But they've got to find some way to get Jaden Greathouse more consistently involved throughout the offense. Now, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that involves. I know we're going to talk a little bit about special teams later and how, Mitch Jeter might be in his head. We don't really know what's going on there. Another player that I think is kind of in his head a little bit right now is Bo Collins.
Yes.
That was going to be my next point, Trevor. I was going to say that I feel like Chris Mitchell has almost taken the place of Bo Collins as kind of Riley's,
clutch,
short yardage, clutch go-to kind of a guy. Like Faison does his thing. And it's a little bit different. But I think Chris Mitchell's kind of replaced him at this point.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it is because we've seen what Bo Collins looks like at his best, right? At least for Notre Dame. He earlier in the season, he was able to high point well. He was making contested catches. He was fighting for the football, at least better than what he is currently. I don't know what's going on there. I'm not sure if it's just frustration of the season not going the way that he thought it was going to go specifically for him, but he's kind of in his head a little bit. You can tell, like, that happens with wide receivers sometimes. And he is going to be a player that Notre Dame will need down the stretch. He will, because I think he is still, in terms of receptions, Notre Dame's leading receiver. That might have been passed up today. I'm not entirely sure. But I think he's still Notre Dame's leading receiver in terms of receptions. So they're going to have to find a way to get him going again in this 3-week stretch. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he just needs some R&R and needs some time away for, a couple days, but they've got to find a way to get him going because he is very, very clearly in his head.
They will need him, Trevor, to your point, in the postseason to be what he was in September.
Yes.
Closer to what he was in September.
Yes. They're going to need, Miami of Ohio, Bo Collins, Texas A&M in the fourth quarter, Bo Collins. They're going to need that because his skill set is such that they will need it. He's a boundary receiver. He's 6'3". He's a big body with a big frame, and he can high point the football well. That's one thing that the other receivers in that room don't really have. So it's going to be interesting to see what Bo Collins' role is going to be moving forward because he's very clearly in his head. But if he can get going again, I think that will help Notre Dame's passing offense take the next step. But to tie it all up in a bow, I think the receivers played fine. I'm going to have to go back through and look at it. I think the tight ends stole the day, and tight ends played really well.
On purpose. Mm-hmm. I think that was part of the game plan.
Yep, agreed.
I think that what you were seeing was the tight ends were going to be a bigger – there was a lot of throws where they were running the tight ends up the seams and one-on-ones that maybe they could have come open for deep shots, but Riley Leonard wasn't getting it. Like even the check down to Jeremiah Love on the play he got hurt. You've got a safety working laterally and Mitchell Evans running a seam. If Riley sees that and has time, he throws that ball over the top potentially, and it's a big play. There was some play – but, didn't necessarily have a ton of time. And he also saw Jeremiah Love come wide open, and I will never, ever question a quarterback for checking the ball down to Jeremiah Love when he's got space. But I thought that, look, one of the things we talked about, Trev, in the preview was, or the keys to victory was, look, this is a game where their linebackers and safeties don't cover well. Tight ends and running backs need to be part of it, and that's exactly what they did. So today the receivers were asked to play complementary roles, and outside of that one drop, I thought they did their job and did their job well. Jaden Harrison is open for what would have been a huge gain if quarterback would have had time to throw. You had, Eli Raridan had 2 nice catches in the game. Mitchell Evans played well in the game. Did what he was asked to do. You had 2 touchdowns, in the red zone-ish area, because the 1 touchdown to Mitchell Evans was just outside the red zone. But, at the 23, you're running similar pass routes that you're going to run at the 20. And did what they needed to do. So I think part of it was by design, guys, because this was a game where if you watch the film, their corners can be beat, but their weakness in the pass game is their linebackers and their safeties, and that's what Notre Dame went after today, was their linebackers and safeties. And I thought that was a big part of what they did. And so, part of it was by design. But I also think that the receivers were limited because some of the stuff they wanted to do with them came from more of just you didn't have a lot of time. But that's where I was a little frustrated by that interception that Riley Leonard threw, because I thought Chris Mitchell was about to smoke that cornerback. I mean, I think it was a corner safety. He was about to run right past him.
It was a safe. So he ran past the corner because they were in zone. So it was a zone beater. Like he was in the hole.
The safety was not running.
Correct.
Was not going to run with Chris Mitchell.
If that ball's on where it's supposed to be, he doesn't have a good angle, and it's a touchdown.
I don't know what. Even if he was trying to throw a cover 2 hole throw, that was a bad ball.
Oh, the hole throw still had to be over the top of that corner
or on the line back shouldered. Right.
Yes.
I don't know what he was thinking.
I can't even make that excuse.
That's a big play for Chris Mitchell if he throws the ball way he's supposed to. So, I mean, I thought the receivers blocked well. Here's the thing I'll give Bo Collins a lot of credit for. He's in his head right now catching the football.
Yeah.
Hasn't impacted his blocking at all. He's still been a very good downfield blocker, which is why I think he's still playing, to be honest with you. And then Deion Colsey has been given a role here in recent weeks of just you're coming in and you're blocking on the edge. And you know what he does? He comes in there and blocks his freaking butt off. Not getting the ball. This kid had a great game against USC 2 years ago. Caught a touchdown pass 2 years ago. Today, he's a blocker.
Right. And
he went in there and did what we needed to do. So, receivers weren't great today. They did their job outside of that 1 catch. And the tight ends and the running backs were going to be the stars of the game today based on the game plan. And that's exactly what we saw.
As far as the pass catchers for me, I'm not going to repeat anything that you guys said, but I do want to touch on something that Trevor had brought up. In that, look, there were, Jaden Greathouse was kind of invisible outside of getting his face mask ripped off or his helmet ripped off and getting an awesome 15-yard penalty there. Bo Collins has been in his own head and not being productive offensively. If those two get involved, even Jaden Harrison, they wanted to get him involved, but obviously it didn't work out because of, you just outlined it, right? So those 3 guys, there are still weapons on this team offensively that Notre Dame is not using on a consistent basis, that if they can tap into some of that playmaking ability, they can still be really, really, really good offensively. And I just, as a defensive coordinator, looking at this offense and if you take the totality of this team, all 12 games, right? Each one of these guys that are on this team from a pass catching standpoint has made a play or multiple plays at some point or another in this season, right? You got to prepare for all of them. And I just feel like 1 or 2 of those guys are going to be making plays in the playoff that are just going to be a game-changing type of play. And they're just kind of waiting in the wings to make it happen. So, we'll see what happens, but I'm not down on the talent level of those guys. I still feel like they can play. But you're right. I think the game plan today wasn't necessarily to get the receivers super involved. They got the tight ends involved. They got in the end zone twice. The tight ends had their best overall, room game of the season. It was awesome. So, pass catching wise, I thought they did a good job. I think they executed the game plan. So I was happy overall. So let's jump into the quarterback play. Brian, talk a little Riley Leonard. I will let you lead this one off. Riley Leonard had, threw for 77% completion percentage, a little over 150 yards in the air, had 50 yards on the ground. I kind of talked on one of the shows during the week. It's like, look, as a Riley Leonard, it's a person who wants Riley Leonard to be successful and wants Notre Dame to be successful. If I'm looking at the stat line, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I want Riley Leonard to be around the 200 mark, throwing the ball around the 50 to 60 yard mark, running the ball, and be responsible for 3 touchdowns. I said that's exactly what I said. He was a little low on the passing yardage. Obviously, he threw the pick because it would have been no turnovers as well. He threw the pick. That was a bad pick. There's no doubt about it. Bad interception. But other than that, is kind of what I would have expected from a stat line perspective and standpoint. I mean, he was responsible for 3 scores, ran for 50 yards, threw for 153. Your thoughts?
I thought he was a playmaker. I thought that he was a playmaker, that there were some missed opportunities in the pass game. Some were on him, some were on the offensive line, not giving him time. Another was on a drop. Yeah, he was pretty accurate with the short stuff. He threw 2 great balls on the touchdowns to the tight ends. Those were great balls. The Eli Raridon one, it's kind of an easy great ball because, he smoked that linebacker. I mean, that guy was just like, I got it. I can run with this tight end. Nope. But the touchdown pass to Mitchell Evans was a phenomenal pass. And he was a playmaker. Little things like on that first touchdown drive, they bring a corner fire and Notre Dame didn't pick it up. And he just makes that guy miss and runs for 4 yards. I mean, things like that most quarterbacks are getting sacked right there.
Yeah.
And he didn't. And I thought one of the smart plays he made too was to take that sack deep in their own territory instead of like Angela asked me, goes, why didn't he throw the ball away? I said, because in that situation, you don't know what's coming from behind you. And you try to cock it back and you're just going to get in there, guy, knocks it out. Just take the sack, punt it away. It's not an ideal situation.
Short field, yeah.
Right. And so I thought he played fine. He wasn't great. His decision-making wasn't great. His ball placement was solid, wasn't great. But he made some very clutch plays, and that's kind of what was needed. I mean, you look at the first drive of the game, he throws a nice ball to Chris Mitchell on third down and 4, moves the chains. That's kind of what you need him to do. The rest of the drive was short stuff, and he has that scramble against the corner fire on 2nd and 4 and moves the chains, right? I mean, it wasn't that he was lights out. That's just kind of what they needed him to do. And then you look at, some later drives, he throws the nice RPO read to Jaden Thomas, who fumbles the ball. Can't put that on the quarterback. You come back to your next drive and, 3rd and 9, he's got to scramble. There's nobody open. Pressure comes, he throws it away. They convert the first down. They get into a 3rd and 11, a play that's not being talked about a lot, but their second touchdown drive, they're in the 3rd and 11, and he throws a really nice ball to Mitchell Evans for a 10-yard gain, which doesn't get the first down, but goes from 3rd and 11 to 4th and 1. They're able to then convert the 4th and 1, which he throws to Jordan Faison for a first down. And then, they obviously end up going down and scoring a touchdown or getting into field goal range on that drive, and then they missed the field goal. You look at what he did. He didn't do anything like dynamic, but when they needed him to make a play, he made plays. That's what they need him to do today. Would it have been nice if he would have been a little bit better throwing the football and some decision-making things? Sure. And I'll have some things, break down some of the things that we could have seen from that, but I thought they needed him to be a playmaker today, and he was a playmaker. And when they got into the scoring areas, they needed him to make smart decisions and throw good footballs, and that's exactly what he did. The interception was the one really bad spot in this game from him, and he came back on the very next drive and threw the best ball he threw all day. So I'll take it. And Tyler Buckner, perfect 1-for-1.
Yeah, man. He's QB1, baby. All right.
How many teams though can put a kid like that in the game who was their starting quarterback 2 years ago?
0.
Who had almost 400 yards of offense in a bowl game over a ranked South Carolina team whose starting quarterback is currently starting in the NFL, and Tyler outplayed him. And they're putting him in as a backup walk-on receiver to throw a fake punt. It's a unique situation.
It's crazy is what it is. You can't write that. Nobody would believe you if you told him that. So Trevor, thoughts on Riley Leonard today?
Yeah, he was an athlete today. He went out and played a little bit of street ball. And when he needed to, he made the plays that he had to, which is something, again, I haven't really been able to say from the quarterback play of Notre Dame over the last couple of years. I haven't. There were a lot of times last year where it's, man, Sam's got to make that play. There was times in 2022 it's like, oh, man, Tyler's got to make that play. Drew's got to make that play. And in a lot of the situations that were happening tonight, it was, Riley's got to make something happen here. Riley's got to go out there and make something shake, and he did. I think he had his best ball of the season to Mitchell Evans on that touchdown pass. Beautifully placed. Can't walk it out better to him than that. There's things that he's going to have to clean up, and I think that is something that you could consistently say after every game. I believe that. But Riley Leonard is who he is, and who he is a quarterback that is 11-1 at Notre Dame right now. Just went on a 10-game win streak. There's things that I think that he can refine. And I think this is going to be another game where we can go back and say if the pass protection was a little better, Riley Leonard's passing numbers would look a little better. I think that's completely fair. I mean, he would have had at least a 40-yard gain to Jaden Harrison if the pass protection held up for a second longer. But I'm with you. Riley Leonard is a guy who, and I've said this every week, and I'm going to continue to say it every week, he is a total output guy. You always have to pay attention to his total output, passing touchdowns and rushing touchdowns, which count as the same amount, no matter how you get it into the end zone. And you look at his total yards of offense. I will always pay attention to his passing and rushing yards combined. But I think today Riley Leonard did what he needed to get Notre Dame a win. Notre Dame's offense bounced back and responded. I think some of the lack of his passing numbers came from just how effective they were at running the football. I mean, when you're getting chunks and gains of 8, 9, 10, 11 on the ground, why should Riley throw it more than what he has to? You know what I mean? I think the majority of the time when he was asked to throw it, he executed well, because you don't complete 77% of your passes on the day if you don't. So I think Riley Leonard had a decent day. I mean, if I were to give him like a grade, I'd give him like a B, because there are things that he definitely could have done better. I don't want to sit here and say that he played a perfect game and the interception was bad. But again, I don't think one bad play overshadows 15 really good plays, in my opinion. So, no, I thought Riley played well today.
Yeah, I think he did what he needed to do. He is. Look, they didn't go get Riley Leonard to be a sit in the pocket, pick you apart passer. That's not who Riley Leonard is. It's not who he's ever been, and he's not who he's going to be. And I don't think Notre Dame needs him to be that in order to be successful. They were scoring up and down the field. They were sustaining drives. They were doing the things that they needed to do. Yeah, he's got to clean up that interception. It's bad. That's a bad interception. There's some other things that he can clean up, but like Trevor said, you throw for 77% completion percentage. You're fairly efficient when you have the football. They're not asking him to do a lot. I'd like to see him push the ball down the field a little bit more, but look, they tried, and Riley Leonard got a helmet to the chest when he was trying to throw down the field. Like, there's certain things that you will be able to do at times, and there's times that you're not going to be able to do it, and you have to be able to adjust. And I thought Notre Dame adjusted well, and I thought Riley Leonard captains this offense well. He's a playmaker. They went and got him from the portal to be a playmaker. He was a playmaker at Duke. The only reason Duke was competitive was because they had Riley Leonard running their offense. Like that. That's why. I mean, go watch Duke film, right? When Riley Leonard's not playing, it wasn't great. Okay. Riley Leonard's a playmaker. When Riley Leonard's on, he's a playmaker at Notre Dame as well. And I really do think that Mike Denbrock and Riley Leonard are absolutely on the same page. They showed video of him on the sideline after he threw the interception. Mike Denbrock went over and said like half a sentence to him. Riley Leonard knew what he did wrong. Like, he didn't need to be screamed at like has happened in the past, right? On Notre Dame sidelines. That's not what needed to happen. Mike Denbrock knew what he needed to say. He got it out. He said it. Riley Leonard went out. The very next drive, I think it was a 3-play, 65-yard drive for a touchdown. Like, that's what I think that's who Riley Leonard is. I'm still happy that he's Notre Dame's quarterback. He's still the best guy to be the quarterback on the 2024 football team for Notre Dame. I thought he played well. I'm not going to say that he lit it up and he's a Heisman Trophy candidate and all those other things. He played well. He did what he needed to do. Responsible for 3 touchdowns. And I would venture to guess, and I haven't watched the post-game press conference, but Riley Leonard obviously spoke at it, I'm sure. He's not super happy with his performance, but you know what he is super happy about? The fact that they went into the Coliseum and they won by 2 scores, and they're going to be in the college football playoff playing in South Bend on December 20th or 21st or whatever it is, right? That was the goal, and Riley Leonard did what he needed to do to make that goal achievable. And that's it, right? He leads touchdown drives. Like, we can go all the way back to game 1, game 2, when we're talking about Riley Leonard. All Riley Leonard does is lead touchdown drives. Like, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that, man, because you got a ton of talent around you. All right, use it, and he does. So I was overall happy with Riley Leonard. Go ahead, Brian.
Vince, it was the drive after the interception was the 3-play drive where they scored and he threw the touchdown pass to Mitchell Evans. I also thought another one that was important in the second half. He threw a ball to the ball he threw to Jordan Faison on 3rd and 3 was a great ball, and Jordan almost caught it despite being grabbed.
Yeah,
I probably should have caught it. That was a great ball, and so like you said, I just a couple other throws that he made in this game that I thought were pretty good. But again, he did what he needed to do. He was good. He wasn't great. Some things he'll have to get better at, but he was playmaker, and that's ultimately what you need from him.
And an underrated play as well, Brian, kind of in the same spirit, is that one little kind of dump off pass that he had to Chris Mitchell on 3rd down. Riley Leonard rolled out to the right. Chris Mitchell played it really well too, because the defense was sitting down in zone. They were underneath a little bit, and Chris Mitchell just kind of slowly drifted back. He didn't turn and run. He just found the empty hole in the zone, and Leonard found him and settled his feet. So that was another really good play. That those are guys that are in rhythm right now. Like I'd love to see some sort of combination of Jaden Harrison and Chris Mitchell on the field together. Those are two guys that have kind of been gelling with Riley Leonard the latter half of this season. So that is, again, kind of in the same spirit of what we've been talking about. They've been making some good plays. Riley Leonard made some good plays today, and they're going to need him to keep making more, especially if they want to make a deep playoff run. That's for sure.
All right, that's going to do it for our offensive talk. Make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, that notification bell, share with your family and friends, and, of course, jump on the boards.irishbreakdown.com. All kinds of good stuff over there, and the conversation will continue, and I can guarantee you, folks, it's going to be really good for the next 3 weeks and beyond, but the next 3 weeks are going to be chef's kiss, so make sure you get over there and check that out. All right, boys, let's go ahead.
Who your offensive game balls going to?
Oh, offensive game balls. Wow. Well, Jeremiah Love gets mine. Offensive game ball.
In the spirit of also not saying Jeremiah Love, I'm going to go with the guy that we just got done talking about, Riley Leonard. He showed another level of resiliency today. He threw a really bad interception, arguably one of his worst since that really bad interception against Northern Illinois, and he came right back and had one of his best balls of the season, throwing a touchdown to Mitchell Evans. So we're giving all these compliments to the offense and how well they played today. And to me, you give it to the guy that's under center that helped them to that win and win a shootout game. So
I'm going with Mitchell Evans because that's who I said was going to get it before the game. And I'm going to count his touchdown as a big moment in the game. And that makes me look better by distorting the facts to get to my truth. But no, I mean, you can give it to him. And I also think Jadarian Price needs a little bit of love in the game ball scenario too, because he comes off the bench. You lose your top running back, and what does he do? He goes for a hundo, and it has a huge touchdown run in the game. And you talk about that 3-yard drive we talked about, Vince. Well, who got them going down into that zone? It was a 35-yard run from Jadarian Price, just hitting a hole quick and bouncing it outside, making a guy miss in space and going for a big play. So ultimately, in all seriousness, my player of the game's Jadarian Price, because coming off the bench and doing what he did, played a big game. So
love it. All right, boys, let's talk defense on this one. Very up and down day for the defense, to put it mildly. Trevor, I'm going to let you kind of kick off your overall thoughts on the defense and kind of where they are right now in this game, maybe going into the future. We'll have plenty of time to talk about the future of the defense, but kind of where they are today and what they were able to do and not do in this game.
I wrote about it earlier this week of this chess match, best on best matchup between Lincoln Riley and Al Golden. And it was what I thought it was going to be. It was going to be this heavyweight back and forth haymaker type of battle. And it was, Notre Dame on defense had a handful of, decent drives, if I'm just being 100% honest. I mean, they went, the first couple drives of the game, USC started marching the ball down the field, and then they got a turnover on downs. The next drive, 5 plays, 19 yards and a punt. And then after a short field, they gave up a touchdown on a 5-play, 37-yard drive. And then after that, they force a 3-and-out punt. They go 5 yards. In the second half, the defense started to get cooked a little bit, and it started on the last drive of the second half. There were some players that struggled today. The pass rush was not really there, if I'm being honest, and that led Al Golden to having to making some adjustments because blitzes weren't getting home, but he was having to blitz so much because his 4-down linemen weren't getting home. I don't think there's any way to beat around the bush. Christian Gray struggled today mightily. But in the moments that mattered, he made the plays that he needed to. So I think resiliency overall is just the best way that I can talk about this defense. There were so many moments where they could have quit and started to feel bad for themselves with the amount of injuries that they had sustained. I mean, even I, for a little bit, started talking about just, I was at home by myself for half the game, but I was talking about, man, I was waiting for the game to matter where they didn't have Boubacar and where they didn't have Botello and when they didn't have Morrison and KVA's out and they don't have Howard Cross. And I started to feel that way a little bit. And when they needed to and when they needed to step up, the defense did in a big way. So in a game like this, when it's a shootout, you don't need your defense to hold an opposing team to 14 points. Would have been nice if they would have, but it's unrealistic to ask your defense to do that every single week. And it took until the 12th game of the regular season for that to happen. And the offense was there to help pick them up. But when the defense needed to make a play and when they needed to make a stop and come up big, I would say 60-40 they did. So, a lot of things to work on, a lot of things to build on and improve on. Need some time to get healthy. I wonder how much the physical game against Army the week before might have played a factor into this as well.
The travel too. I mean, going from East Coast and then you go out to West Coast. And according to Big Ten people, it's almost impossible to go out West Coast from this time zone and win.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard. Well, just wait for the people from the South to come up north in a couple of weeks, but whatever.
Yeah. Kirby Smart in 40-degree weather couldn't take his hands out of his pocket yet last night.
Oh, I saw.
So
it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But overall in the defense, that's where I'm at.
Brian?
I should have given the game ball to Billy Sharuth. So I should have given it to, now that I think about it.
I can't believe nobody was like in his ear, but like, Shrouth.
Yeah, he said his name like 4 different ways. I'm going to eventually get this thing right. Never did.
Oh, it's so bad.
Defensively, honestly, if you want to know how the defense played, watch Christian Gray. He symbolizes how the defense played. Really good physical start. Good stops. Kept him off the board. A lot of bad in between. Second, third, early fourth quarter, finish the way you need to finish. I mean, that's what it boils down to. It's a brutal game from the defense. Brutal game.
It was.
Brutal performance. I'm looking at some of my notes, and it's just like your defensive line was pushed off the ball. Riley Mills had played really good football in the last month. I didn't think he was very good today. I thought USC had a game plan to double team him a ton. I mean, they had 2 guys hitting him off the snap every time because they weren't going to let him do what he did last week. Donovan Heinisch has played really well for last month. He was just kind of okay today. You had a ton of missed tackles. I mean, there was that one long run by Joyner that right before the game-ending interception, like Gabriel Rubio hits him at the line of scrimmage and misses him. Don Schuler comes down on one of Woody Marks' early long runs, and he's got him just in his sights, and he just goes out of control. You had 2 missed sack opportunities in the game that would have been drive killers. You don't make those plays. There just was a lot in this game, guys. The pass interference by Christian Gray was just so unnecessary. It's like you weren't in bad position. It just was very unnecessary. You had guys getting turned loose. You had a wheel route that came wide open. Thank goodness that Josh Burnham was able to make that play and force an incompletion. You didn't. Another team is able to hit a quick pitch off of a crack action and you get outside. But I also thought part of it too, guys, is I'm gonna give Lincoln Riley a lot of credit. He was in Al Golden's head a little bit today. Notre Dame is a heavy man team, a blitz team. I thought they had a really good blitz beater package today. I thought they did a really nice job with their screen stuff. They were running like crossing routes, but they were doing it behind the line and they were picking Notre Dame players and kind of stopping them and those or getting after them in those situations. Notre Dame's linebackers at times didn't adjust well to those things. I thought The safeties were inconsistent in this game with their tackling and their run fits, and but again, even there, Xavier Watts was okay for most of the game. Comes up with 2 huge plays at the end of the game, and even before the interception return, he had that great pass breakup on 4th down, where they throw the ball and he comes over and just makes a great play on the ball, breaks it up. Trevor mentioned it. The pass rush was not very good. They had a couple key ones. I thought Junior Tillamook had a couple really nice pressures in the second half. And the one back shoulder throw, the only time Leonard Moore got beat all game. That's just a gorgeous ball and a great catch. I don't know what you can do against that one. But unfortunately, there weren't a lot of throws like that, guys. There was a lot of throws where you're like, why are you 5 yards behind that guy? Why did you turn that guy loose? Why are you late? It was a sloppy game. And in certain instances, I got to give a lot of credit to Lincoln Riley for keeping Notre Dame off balance. They ran the ball a decent amount early. I thought they went away from the run game a little too soon. Even without Woody Marks, you still have Quentin Dunbar and Brian Jackson. I thought they went away from that a little bit too early. But just overall, guys, I just think that it was just a bad day. Not the greatest game plan, not the greatest in-game adjustments. I thought they did a lot of zone today and a lot of blown assignments within the zone. There's the one catch where Christian Gray is not beat. He's trailing, thinking he has safety help over the top. The safety help either doesn't come or comes super late, and they complete a ball there. There was a couple plays on stop curl routes where there's just guys wide open because there's miscommunications in the zone. It just was a bad game by the defense in a lot of ways, guys. It just was. And some of that's credit to USC, but a lot of that was just Notre Dame just not doing what they needed to do. But as we talked about, when the game was on the line and it's 35-28, and USC's driving for the potential game-tying touchdown. And, I'm looking at it and I'm getting frustrated. I'm like, guys, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Christian Gray goes out there and makes a play. I mean, and it was a terrible drive. It was that 1st and 10, they ran a curl route. Guy was wide open for a 16-yard gain. 2 plays later, Jaden Osbury's got a great chance for a sack, misses it. Guy throws the ball away. So instead of 2nd and 8, it's 3rd and 8. Then they run a go route versus Jordan Clark, and that was a play where it's just a great call by USC. It's a mismatch. A 6'6" guy against a 5'10" guy. 5'10" guy's doing all he can, but it was a good ball and a good catch. Next play, Gabriel Rubio has a missed tackle at the line of scrimmage. Running back ends up going for 23 yards. And you're just like, okay, now I'm a little nervous. And next play, Christian Gray, who had struggled the whole game, is in good phase with the guy. Quarterback throws a bad ball. I thought the quarterback should have tried to lead it. It should not have been a back shoulder throw. I don't know that he could have completed that even if he threw a good ball because Christian was in good position, but he throws a back shoulder ball. Christian makes a great catch on it and then has takes it all the way back to the house. And then basically at that point in time, it's ball game. And, that's when the game was over. So it was a bad game, guys. It was a great job by Lincoln Riley and his staff. Notre Dame's defense did not execute very well. A lot of characteristic mistakes by the defense in this game, assignment-wise, a lot of missed tackles. But Trevor, as you said, when they needed to make plays, they made plays. Even on the first drive of the game, they gave up way too much ground. USC goes on a 10-play drive. You have Josh Burnham gets moved off the ball. You have a missed tackle by Adon Schuler. So, 2nd and 13 turns into a 1st down. You have a great stuff on the next play, and then you run a little screen pass. It goes for 26 yards. Next play, you get a little short gain. Drake Bowen and Jalen Sneed have a stop, and you have a great breakup by Christian Gray. And then, a little inside run. So, yeah, you gave up a little something, but you stopped it. And they run a little slide route. Christian comes down, drills the guy, stops him short of the 1st down. And so, again, they bent, and then you make a stop. So, there was a decent amount of that in this game, fellas. But you also have to avoid some of those mistakes. There was a drive, I forget when it was, but if Christian Gray just executes his job, it's a 3rd and 8 incomplete pass, and they're punting. And Notre Dame was hot at that point in time. And I'm about to find out when that drive was. I think that was the second half, I believe, but I could be wrong. But that was just one of those examples, guys, that we're talking about where it was the final drive of the first half. It's 14-7. You're going to start the second half with the ball,
that was bad.
Yeah, it's just
they let him go down in 35 seconds. They scored in 35 seconds.
You get beat on a go route for 29 yards, and then the next play he gets a pass interference, and then they score a play later on a seam route. That's actually not the play I was thinking of. I thought it was. Oh, it was the first play of the second half where it's 3rd and 8, and that's when Christian Gray had that pass interference that just was so unnecessary. And you're just like, why? Like, why? You know, your offense goes down and gives you a 21-14 lead. And but that drive was also evidence of Lincoln Riley had a really good plan to go at Mike Denbrough or Al Golden's blitz package today. Really good plan. And sometimes you got to say you got to do a better job. Sometimes, guys, you got to tip your cap and say, well done, opponent. And there was definitely some of that today with USC. The quarterback made some great throws, and Lincoln Riley had some really good play calls.
Yeah.
On top of Notre Dame having some bad misses and mistakes.
Yeah. Overall, the defense struggled. I mean, there's no doubt about it. They struggled, and they struggled for a myriad of reasons. You hit on most of them, to be honest with you. I think they got out leveraged at times. They had some poor run fits at times. They weren't getting pressure. I mean, they let this kid just sit in the pocket and throw the football. I mean, that you've got to be able to get pressure. And most of the year, Brian and Trevor, Notre Dame's been able to get pressure with 4. And then they've been able to do different things in the back end to confuse quarterbacks, to, make them throw interceptions, or throw the ball away, whatever. They were not able to do that tonight. And that was a major problem in this game. And so Al Golden then had to start bringing some pressures and some heat and some things like that. And then that put, the back end on some islands, and it put him into some zone, which I don't think this is a very good zone team, to be perfectly honest with you. They're better in man-to-man, but for whatever reason, they played a lot of zone tonight. And that led to some of the miscommunication. I'm hoping, look, they got out of this thing without being damaged from a team standpoint. I'm hoping they look back at this game like, hey, guys, you know what? We're not really a zone team. There's going to be times where you have to drop into a zone just to switch some things up. But they were in it a lot. And I think they're going to look at this and be like, you know what? I think we're going to stick with our man-to-man. We're going to stick with some combo coverages maybe, some different things. We can't just go into a zone look. Or we have to get a heck of a lot better at it in the next 3 weeks before we play in the playoffs. Like I have a problem with the way that they played today. I mean, it was the lack of communication, the lack of run fits. Some of it was missed tackles. There was one where Adon Schuler came downhill like a heat-seeking missile, and in the past, he's made the play in the backfield, ended up being like a 12-yard gain because it was him or nobody. And so it was just little things like that just kept compounding. And there were times where Notre Dame did a good job on 1st and 2nd down, and then they would give up a 3rd down conversion and,
3rd and long.
Yeah, exactly. And that part was extremely frustrating to me because you were putting them behind the sticks. And this isn't really an offense that is really, really good at completing 3rd downs, but you allowed them to complete some 3rd downs in this game, whether it was by penalty or whether it was by them just completing those 3rd downs. So overall, yeah, it was their worst performance of the year defensively. There's no doubt about it.
5 touchdowns, right, in 6 red zone attempts. Notre Dame's been a great 3rd down defense all year. They weren't very good on 3rd down in this game. They've been a great red zone defense all year. They weren't great in the red zone in this game.
Nope.
They've been an elite pass defense all season. They were not very good in the pass game today, and they still won.
Yeah.
All right. Part of it was they were a perfect 3 for 3 on 4th down.
Correct.
It was huge, including the first drive of the game. But like again, I circle back to the beginning, Vince. And when when the best part of your team can play as poorly as this one did, and you can still win a football game like this,
right?
It's mark of a good football team. Because I see a lot of other teams have performances like Notre Dame's defense had today, and they get beat.
Correct. We've seen it across the board. By the way, there's only one undefeated team, by the way, in the country. Right. Just gonna throw that out there. But anyway, yeah. So overall, defensively, it's the worst game of the season. But they made plays when they had to. So I hadn't even gotten to that part. They obviously made plays when they had to. Those pick sixes were massive. They were huge. I mean, that was fantastic, obviously. And that ended up being the difference in the game. I mean, I don't think they let them score on that last drive, if, whatever. But, they ended up winning by 2 touchdowns. They got 2 defensive touchdowns. So, no matter how you look at it, those 2 scores were huge in this game. And they came when they really needed it because USC was going down to score. I had in my mind, I'm thinking this is going to be a tie game. This is going to come down to a field goal, and I might slip my own wrists. That's where I'm at when I was watching this game. And sorry, maybe I shouldn't have gone that far. But the point is, when it was there was about just under 4 minutes to play when Notre Dame got that first pick six, and it ended the game. I mean, that pretty much ended the game, and then they put then X puts one on just to put a bow on it. But
it's a great pressure. It was
on the second one,
yeah,
100%. It was a fantastic. Both Kaiser. It was Kaiser, and then there was two guys flanking him, like about to put more pressure on. But Kaiser was the lead guy. They brought some pressure on that. And I mean, he just threw it off his back foot. It was fourth down. He was just doing whatever he could, obviously, on that one. And then, you can't let Xavier Watts play center field like that with the ball in the air as long as it was. I mean, that's what happens, right? And then nobody was going to catch him. So, but yeah, they made plays when they needed to make plays, but they've got to clean some of that stuff up. Yeah. They've got to clean some of that stuff up. So let's jump into some of it, more specifically, some position by position. We'll start up front with the defensive line. We've kind of touched on the defensive line a little bit, Trevor, but I'm going to let you kind of tee off on them as a whole in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll keep this pretty quick, but I think Josh Burnham and Junior Tuihalamaka played the best along the defensive line. Gabe Rubio flashed at times, but outside of that, I think the defensive line struggled today, man. I really do. This was not the same defensive line that Notre Dame had displayed the last couple of weeks. I don't know what the reason for that is. I think some of it, and we alluded to it when we were just talking about defense, big picture. I think they just had an off day, man. I just don't think it was their day. And we had been talking about it, that it was going to happen at some point. It is an impossible task to ask the defense to play the way that they did for 12 straight games. And this was the game that had happened. And Notre Dame still won by 14. Could have been by 21, but they won by 14. And I think Josh Burnham kind of carried the weight of good performances on the defensive line today. I thought that he played really solid. I'm going to, like I said, similar to the offensive line, I'm going to have to go back through and look, especially with how much the defensive line rotates. I'm going to have to go through and see who played well, who didn't. But at the end of the day, I think they stepped up and made the plays when they needed to. But defensive line, we're going to have to go through and see who did what when. But a lot of improvements need to be made over this next 3 weeks with them. And I think Howard Cross coming back healthy is going to help.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Trevor. Huge.
Yeah. I think Howard Cross coming back healthy is going to be huge. I think their little third down, whatever you want to call it, NASCAR package with KVA coming off the edge, when he comes back healthy, that's going to be huge. Because the biggest issue today is the pass rush was just completely absent for the majority of the game.
Yeah. And that didn't help the secondary any.
No.
Yeah.
No, it did not. But it's where I'm at with the defensive line right now.
Brian?
Same. I mean, I think Trevor nailed it. I mean, I think he did a good job. I thought, and I already said the thing I talked about, I thought the D-line got pushed around a little bit in the run game today.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Woody Marks playing the whole game would have changed the outcome, but they would have had a couple more runs.
Yeah, they would have.
Well in that game. I thought they got pushed around a little bit up front and had a couple twist games that I thought were called at odd times, like short yardage goal line situations, and they were able to kind of catch Notre Dame in those and kind of seal them and rip them. But overall, I just don't. They didn't play that great today.
Yeah.
Like I said, I do think there was a couple good pressures. Junior had a good pressure, and then the Josh Burnham pressure that forced the incompletion on that wide open. I mean, you could see it. He comes in motion and he runs a wheel route right off the edge, and just nobody runs with him. And Burnham had that huge pressure that stopped him. But there's missed sack opportunities by Riley Mills and by Josh Burnham, and then same thing with the linebackers. I thought the play of the linebackers coincided with the defensive line, to be honest with you, Vince.
Get into linebackers. Yes,
I didn't think they were at times as aggressive downhill as they needed to be. I thought Drake Bowen played really well for the most part. I thought Jack at times got engulfed a little bit. I thought Drake at times they were able to get free runners up to him, and no linebacker is going to be good when you get free runners up to him. But like there's that play they pointed out, and the TV, the announcers actually did a pretty good job pointing this one out. But it was a short yardage play. I think it might have been the first. No, it wasn't the first drive. But there was a play where Notre Dame came up with a huge, I think it was third or fourth down stop. where Drake Bowen basically, you could see he knew that they made a check and he immediately was like, it's going right there.
Yeah.
And they stopped it, and then he ran.
It was a run to the defense's left, the
Right.
offense's right, and they stuffed it.
Right.
And he called it. He was like staring at the sideline, watching the signals come in, and he knew whatever it was, he knew that was going to be a run to the left, and they absolutely stoned it. He didn't even have anything to do with the play, the actual physical part of the play. He had nothing to do with it because it didn't even get to him. That's a great call. That's a great call. Listen, I thought Drake played a great game, as you said. I thought, Kaiser, he's gotten good at blitzing. The problem was I didn't like the timing of the blitzes when they were called.
Well, and they just haven't been a great, like Drake and Jack have not been great blitzers this year. Their best blitzers were Osbury and Kingston.
Yeah.
And Osbury had multiple pressures as a blitzer today, and you didn't have Kingston, which I think hurt in some of those third. I also
tried to bring Snead a lot.
Line. Look, I understand it's the same thing with Jordan Clark when the guy spit in his face. I don't care what a guy is doing to you in the pile. I don't care if he's twisting your ankle or not. You cannot haul off and punch a guy in the freaking face.
He's so lucky he didn't get caught.
And I really hope that I hope there's no rule that says they can go back and review that and suspend him for the first playoff game, because that was just an absolutely just dumb decision. And you could say maybe he's trying to, but it was a closed fist. Looked like to me. I mean, it's a punch. And he didn't strike the guy hard. It was more of like a get off of me type of thing, but that was a punch. That was just dumb. But I thought part of the reason the linebackers didn't play great is because the D line didn't play great. And there was a couple times they were having to bow around a D tackle that got driven off the ball to get to the ball. And Vince, that's not going to work well for a linebacker.
Right. No, absolutely. Trevor, you got any thoughts on the linebackers?
The only nugget that I'm going to add is I thought Drake Bowen was fantastic in coverage today.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point, Trev, because they went at him multiple times.
Yeah,
and the only way they were completing balls in those situations was they'd have had to been perfectly thrown footballs.
Yeah, I mean, Notre Dame's linebackers in the past have been liabilities one-on-one in coverage, and I thought Drake Bowen put a lot of those narratives at least at bay. I'm not going to say to rest yet because it's one game, it's one sample size, but I thought Drake Bowen played really, really well out in space and coverage today against their tight end. So that's going to be the only other thing that I'll add, because I'd echo everything else that you guys said about the run game.
It's a great observation, Trev.
Let's talk secondary, and I know you've been kind of going back and forth with some people in the chat about the secondary, Brian.
No, I'm not going back and forth. It's just like, listen, it's okay to say they played poorly today.
100%.
They did play poorly today. We talked about like at the very beginning, I said how the defense played. I said Christian Gray sums up how the defense played. Strong start. A lot of bad in the middle, great finish. I don't know. Like, I'm not going to sit there and blow smoke up your butt and try to tell you that a secondary that gave up 360 yards passing and 3 passing touchdowns and allowed that offense that hadn't scored over 30 points in how long to just move the ball up and down the field on you. That's bad. And it doesn't even include the pass interference penalties that you got called on you in this game that were bad. It's okay to say that and still say, yeah, they stepped up at the end. Of course they did. I literally said that. But I'm not going to then say that makes up for it. Like, because here's the thing, Vince, had they played better, you wouldn't have needed the plays at the end of the game to even be there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay to say that. We've talked all year about how great this secondary is. That a bad game? Christian Gray had a bad game. He stepped up clutch early, stepped up clutch at the end. That's great. But a lot of his bad plays in the middle are partly why USC got in that game. It's okay to say that. I still love Christian Gray. He's a heck of a player. He had a bad game. It happens. He had a bad game. And, yeah, he stepped up at the end. I thought Xavier was okay for most of the game, but he had huge plays at the end of the game. Jordan Clark had the worst game he's had in the Notre Dame uniform. It's okay to say that. It's an anomaly. I also think he's in a weird situation because he didn't play a whole lot last week against Army. It's in a couple of the plays he got beat, he was going up against a 6'6" guy. But, like, they bid on double moves too often in this game, which allowed guys to get open at the seam. They don't usually do that. They usually don't jump on those kind of routes. I thought Don Schuler was way out of control at times coming down as a tackler in this game. There was one time he should have picked the pass off, but he was just not in control and undercutting the route, and he overplays it, and the ball gets gets broken up behind him. Leonard Moore breaks it up, but that should have been a pick. And if he picks it, it's 6. But the one guy in the secondary that I thought played great today was Leonard Moore. And even the one time he got beat, it was like, there's nothing you could have done against that. Like, that was a great ball and against pressure, great ball and a great catch. There's nothing you could have done about that. Outside of that, I thought Leonard Moore was outstanding. He was the one guy in the secondary today that was outstanding. The rest of the secondary did not play well. And so I'm not going back. Brent's a great poster. I'm sitting there saying, you can't give up 360 passing yards to this team. This guy is not a good passer, and you made him look like a good passer. That's just a fact. And yeah, great that you ended it. It's great that you ended it at the way that you did, but part of the reason that you needed to make those plays at the end is because of how poorly you played in the first 3.5 quarters. That's my point. They did not play well today. Were they clutch at the end? Yeah, it's great. And that's why we said it's a great team win, but it's also okay to say, hey, like if you play like this against Texas, you think you're going to win a playoff game? That's the standard. It's not, was this good enough to beat USC? Oh, it's going to, no, that's where it is. But again, did they make and it wasn't just the end of the game. I mean, Christian Gray with 2 huge plays to stop the first touchdown drive. Leonard Moore with some clutch pass breakups on drives that ended up forcing punts. So yeah, they made some plays. That's what a great secondary is supposed to do, but it's also okay to say they did not play well today. And they did not play well today. Part of that, USC played great, but part of that is the secondary did not play well. That's part of it. It's 12th game of the year, and they finally didn't play great. I mean, it happens. They're going to be fine. They're going to I think they're also tired, guys, because this secondary, there's no depth there, especially at cornerback. Christian Gray's had to play a lot of snaps. And he looked tired. And that's where I think when you get tired, guys, you're going to start losing your technique. You start getting grabbier. And I thought that's what it looked like today. They did not play well, but they're going to get 3 weeks to rest, and they're going to be fine in the postseason. Like, they played bad today, but I'm not sitting there saying like what I hate is when people say things like, team's been great for 11 games. They play one bad game. Like, this is why I'm worried about in the postseason. Well, I mean, if they play like this in the postseason, I'm worried, but this was the anomaly. They had a bad game. And it's not that they had a bad game where like they were getting beat by guys that are just better than them. It was, you're getting beat on, well, why'd you do that? That's not like you. That's not normal. Jordan Clark, why'd you overplay the route that way? Like, that's not like you. Christian Gray, that's not the technique I've seen. Like, the way he played that one little reverse pivot route for the touchdown, I've seen Christian Gray almost pick that pass off 3 times this year. That's not normal of how Christian plays that route. But at that point in time, I think it was just in his head a little bit. And when you physically get tired, you get mentally a little tired. And so I think he's one guy. Xavier Watts is a guy that are going to benefit greatly from getting some time off. But they played bad. They did not play well today. And I promise you, every single kid in the Notre Dame secondary is going to tell you. If you ask Christian, how'd you play today? He's going to be like, I played terrible. Yeah, he's going to, hey, what about that pick six? Well, I'd be willing to bet you $20 in Christian Gray's head. He's saying the same thing. Well, I wouldn't have needed to make that play if I'd have played better during the game. I'll bet you he's saying that. But when you have an elite secondary, you expect them to play better than this, and they didn't play well today. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. It was a bad game. It happens. Yeah. Every team in the country has a unit that has played bad in one game this year. Every single one. Today's was for Notre Dame defense and for Notre Dame secondary.
Yep. And the offense picked them up. Trevor, secondary, hit it.
I think it was just a weird type of rhythm for the secondary, right? Like last week, the secondary had to be very, very aggressive and come downhill extremely fast, which is why I think they were biting on some stuff today, biting on those double moves. Adon Schuler was coming down, flying out of control, because last week against Army, that was working because you had to. And this week, I mean, and again, sometimes you kind of have to just tip the cap to Lincoln Riley to look at that tendency and play the game of odds and say, hey, like, I think we're going to be able to take advantage of this today. Yeah, Notre Dame has played good passing offenses before in the past. They played Louisville, who has a comparable passing offense to what this USC offense is. And honestly, like, if you're going to compare like complete to complete, like I would take Tyler Shuck over Jaden Mavea. I would. I would take Ja'Cory Brooks over Deuce Robinson. You know what I mean? So it's just, we've seen Notre Dame play better against comparable passing offenses. I think it's just a weird, last week you're in New York and you're playing in the cold and your defense is having to prepare for a traditional triple option. And then 7 days later, you are on the West Coast playing a very fast, speedy, get the ball out West Coast style offense. I think that had a factor in it. I do. You compound that with the lack of depth and how, probably tired they are. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. very similar to what you guys said. I think Leonard Moore is awesome, man. I mean, like, can we just all agree on that? I mean, it's crazy what he was asked to do and who he was asked to step in for. And he has played really well, and he had his best game of the year tonight, and it was fantastic. Christian Gray, I mean, you want to know, this defense summed up is they gave up a 22-yard pass play to Deuce Robinson because for whatever reason, 5'9" Jordan Clark was on him, a 6'6" receiver. And then 2 plays later, they had a 99-yard pick six. That was just the type of day that it was for the defense. A very, very strong finish. And then Xavier Watts wanted to get in on the party and just do one better and have a 100-yard pick six. So am I upset about how the game finished? No, but I don't even want to sit back and say, well, now they have a lot of stuff to work on before you get into the postseason, because what speaks more about a team and who they truly are? 11 really good games or 1 bad game? And I'm just going to err on the side of the sample size of what we have.
You know what the narrative is going to be. They haven't played, and we heard it before. They haven't played a receiving core like this. Yes, they have, and they played well. They had it, and again, it's one thing if you're just getting beat because guys are just running by you and doing things. And they were doing things they haven't done all year, Trevor. That's my thing. That's why I'm not worried about it. They were making technical mistakes they haven't made all year. And that's why I don't get too worked up about the end. And again, a lot of other teams don't have a guy like Deuce Robinson who's 6'6" and can go up and make a play like that on the football.
Yeah.
So, and it didn't help that Riley Mills didn't play very well and provide some of that interior pass rush. You didn't have your one of your young good pass rushing linebackers in Kingston, and you didn't have Howard Cross. I mean, that factored into it. You're going to have those guys in the postseason.
Yep. Yeah.
And this defense is finally going to get some rest because they have had to carry this team for a long time. Now, the offense has helped a lot lately, but they've been playing great football for a very long time. And they were due for a little bit of a letdown, and they had one today. I'd rather have it today than in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I'd rather have it today than you shut this team down, and in 3 weeks you finally have that off day. Because now – if you're Al Golden, you're kind of like you're pissed about the game, but you're also kind of excited because these guys have been feeling pretty good about how they've played the last 3 months of the season. Now there's a lot to keep their attention these next 3 weeks with the way that they played today. A lot to get their attention the next 3 weeks. And sometimes, Trevor, that as a coach, that can be a good play. And Vince, I know you went through this where your team won a game, but they didn't play well, and they've been playing well for a while, and you're kind of like, this is going to be good because we're going to be able to remind them for 3 weeks. Yeah, right. Why you need to do this and why you need to do that. And this is when you're good and this is when you're not good. And games like this can help with that, guys. They really can.
Well, and this is obviously a well-placed buy for Notre Dame as well, going into this 3-week layoff before they have to strap it up again that 3rd week of December. And the only point that I was going to make, you guys hit all the points. The only point I was going to make is the defensive front has been playing so well all season. It absolutely aids what the secondary is able to do. And that didn't happen today. And it exposed some things in the secondary that I just don't think are going to happen in the future. Now, I'm hoping, anyway, that the front plays better than they did. And look, the secondary didn't hold up their end of the bargain either. And that's where the communication comes into play. And there was some, obviously Christian Gray, some of those PI, to 2 of those PIs, I mean, he had 2 PIs. One was terrible. And one he didn't even have to, hand on the shoulder pad. Like, you were in good position, man. Like, you didn't have to do that. So, there, Don Schuler missed some tackles. There are issues that are very much, I'm going to make up a word, clean-upable. And they will do that. I have full faith that they will do that. Al Golden is not going to rest on this performance and be like, yeah, that's good enough. Like, we're good, guys. We're good going into the playoff. There's nothing we need to fix. Secondary has to play better. There's no doubt about it. But they also need the front to play better so that they can play better. It's all part and parcel. Right? It's all interconnected, and anybody that knows anything about football knows that. And look, the defense as a whole just did not have a good game today. They just didn't, but they made plays when it mattered. And that's the biggest thing from the defense for me. So that's going to do it for our defensive breakdown, fellas. Make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, that notification bell. Share with your family and friends. And, of course, jump on the boards@irishbreakdown.com. And stick around. We've got a little bit more coming your way. So jump on the boards, give us a like, give us a subscribe, all that fun stuff.
Game balls?
I knew you were going to say that after I already went through that whole thing. Yeah, defensive game balls. Hit it.
I'm going Christian Gray.
I like that.
It's ballsy.
Because he stopped a scoring drive to start the game, and he made the play. It's a 7-point game. Yes, he'd been playing really poorly to get to that point in time. 7-point game, and he steps up and makes that play and then takes it back to the house.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nobody on defense played a great game for 60 minutes. Probably the closest you could come is Xavier Watts and Drake Bowen. Probably the two guys that had the best overall games. If I'm not going Christian Gray, I'm going Xavier Watts because he had the 2 huge plays in the fourth quarter, including the pick 6. But I'm going Christian Gray because his first drive and that last drive were huge in this game because USC went right down the field on that first drive. And then Christian made 3 huge plays on the drive. He had the third down, he had the second down pass breakup, and then he makes a stop on the fourth down. Read it perfectly, beat the blocker, and makes a stop on fourth down, and then the pick 6. So even though he played a lot of bad football, the reality is this is a game where nobody's playing great. You need somebody to step up and make a play. And who did that when the game was on the line? It was Christian Gray. So
you got
either
you
him
got Trevor
or Watts.
Mine's Leonard Moore. I mean, he was the one light of consistency for Notre Dame's defense, in my opinion. His highlighted plays might not have been as flashy as what Christian Gray's were or what Xavier Watts's was. But as a true freshman to come into a role where you're kind of looking at your counterpart, and let's kind of be honest here, kind of get beat the majority of the game, that puts a little bit more stress on you to now you have to hold your own so USC doesn't have both sides of the field to work with. And as long as you hold your own and Mavea can't just sit back and think, well, now I can pick on 29 and 15, it's a lot of pressure to put on an 18-year-old kid. So, you know, he was, like I said, the one flashing light of consistency for Notre Dame's defense. So mine's going to Leonard Moore.
I'm gonna hit a little Drake Bowen. Just to be a little bit different. I thought this is really his first opportunity to play in this rivalry on the road, you know, big moment for him specifically, especially with KVA on the shelf for this game. He was going to have to play a lot more minutes. I mean, I haven't looked at the snap counts or anything like that, but I would guarantee you he played a lot more than he normally does when KVA is healthy. And I thought he took advantage of the fact that he got to play more. I thought he was tremendous in pass coverage in this game. There were some run fits that I think could have been better, no doubt about that. But I thought that he played very, very well for his first chance to play against USC, especially on the road and the environment that it was and what he was able to do. So I'm going to go with Drake Bowen on this one. Gentlemen, our last segment of the day is going to be twofold, right? We're going to lead it off with some special teams, and then we're going to go right into Super Chats. That's how we're going to do it. So let's talk a little special teams, guys. And I'm going to give you each a turn to talk about special teams. You can talk about the return game. You can talk about the coverage units. You can talk about the kicking units. You can talk about whatever you want, but you get one turn. All right. And then I'm moving on to somebody else. So, Brian, I'm going to give it to you first. Hit me with some special teams talk.
They got to figure out the field goal kicking situation. I know you guys will talk about coverage and all that, but at the end of the day, this is exactly why we said this kid needed to rest this weekend.
Yep.
Because it is not even a physical thing anymore. It's a mental thing.
The PATs were perfect.
Yeah, it's a mental thing. And luckily, he'll have 3 weeks to get right. But you think about this team is scoring 30. After today, they're going to be at 39.8 points per game. If they just made half their missed field goals, of the missed field goals they missed, if they just made half of them, this team's scoring 40 points a game on the season. Like, it didn't cost you today, but it could have.
Could have.
And they're just going to have to figure that out at some point in time, Vince. They're going to have to figure it out.
I mean, look, for a while there, I was thinking it was going to come down to a field goal. I mean, honestly, as USC is driving, under 4 minutes to go, just under 4 minutes, it was like 3:58 or whatever. But they were going down to tie the score. And at that point, I had faith that Notre Dame was going to be able to drive down the field, but I don't want to say I didn't have faith they weren't going to score a touchdown, but they may have run out of time, right? If they had a kind of a methodic drive and it comes down to a field goal. I was not mentally prepared or emotionally prepared for that to be the case. And so thank you, Christian Gray, for making sure that was not the case in this game. So the field goal, I think they got the protection. I think the protection was better, But the field goal kicking, he just flat out missed it. It was a good hold. It was a good snap. He just flat out pushed it right. And like I said, every PAT was right down the middle with good force. He was swinging smooth. He was swinging right through it. It was no problem. The field goal was only about 10 yards further than PATs. I think it was actually less. I think it was a 27-yarder off the top of my head. That can't happen. Like, if you got to tell yourself it's a PAT, then tell yourself it's a PAT. But you're absolutely right. That is why we talked about the fact that they need to sit him at this point and just let him figure it out. Let him get mentally right. Let him get physically right, whatever the case may be, because you're going to need him in the playoff at some point. And I'm very happy that it didn't come down to a field goal. For the first time, I'm saying that. I'm really happy it didn't come down to a field goal. Trevor, you be Mr. Positive for me, will you?
Okay. Well, to kick it off on a positive light, I thought the coverage today was great. Punt coverage and kickoff coverage I thought was fantastic. Outside of that one return by Mekhi Lemon that I think got him close to or past the 35-yard line, but I thought coverage today was fantastic. The punting today was awesome. I know we talked about it earlier today. I think that the rugby punt just needs to be gone from James Rendell's arsenal, because when he doesn't do that, I think he is fantastic. But everything else, I think the frustrating thing is Notre Dame at the end of the first half had the opportunity to potentially go down and steal some points if they had a field goal kicker. They had 24 seconds and 2 timeouts left to try to get somewhat into field goal range, at least to try to attempt something. And it wasn't even a thought because there's zero confidence in the kicking game, So that is something that if I can look back and say confidently that will need to be fixed come playoff time, it's that. Because right now, I don't think kicking field goals should be a thought. I think Mike Denbrock, you have to sit back and say, hey, anytime you get inside of the 40-yard line, you now have 4 chances to get a first down. And you have 4 chances to get a touchdown.
It's a 26-yard kick.
Yeah, there you go.
That's
what I'm saying.
20-yard kicks. And it was right down the middle. I mean, look, Mitch Jeter was over 90% in the SEC the last 2 years.
Yeah.
This isn't a Mitch Jeter's not a good player. This isn't Mitch Jeter can't handle kicking. And the kid was perfect in the swamp. He was perfect at Kyle Field. This is the injuries have got him into some bad habits mentally and physically, and you got to because you're him in the postseason. This isn't me taking. I don't think they should have put him out there. Not because I have an issue with Mitch Jeter. It's like sometimes you got to look in the kid's eyes and be like, we got to get him right. But fortunately, it didn't cost him today.
The punting game was good. Marty Biaggi must have gotten some sort of a message to him that says, just let him kick it. Don't rugby style it. Just let him be him. Because 2 games in a row now, that's happened. And I'm hoping that it continues, because when you just let him be him, everything's going to be just fine. And so I thought the punt game was good. He didn't have to punt until the 4th quarter, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still big. It was still big time because he flipped the field and he did everything that he needed to do. It was a 60-yard punt, something along those lines. I mean, that's exactly what Notre Dame needed at that point. Look, if you're going to punt, that's what you need. You need to flip the field, and that's exactly what he did. Coverage was on point all game. Special teams was on point the entire game, except for the field goal miss. Now, that's a big exception. It's a big exception. But, as Brian would say, Notre Dame leads the league or leads the college football in almost block punts.
Best team in the country at almost blocking punts, man. They've almost got 97,000 almost blocked punts. They blocked 1 finally last week. But
they almost blocked a few more of those today. They didn't get to it. But the coverage team was really, really good. Didn't really have any opportunities to return any kicks in this game. So that
they haven't in a while. Teams are just not going to give Jaden Harrison or Jaden.
Correct.
Today they had Jaden Harrison and Jadarian Price back there returning kicks. USC was like, nope.
They just kicking it out of the back.
Not happening.
Yeah.
Not happening. And honestly, it makes it even more puzzling that a team that just looks at it like that is a team that also kept returning the dang ball out of their, like Eric Goyens, I thought did a great job.
He put it exactly where Biaggi wanted him to put it.
One mistake that went for 36. I thought he was a little too close to the hash,
right?
But outside of that, I mean, he was very good with ball placement today, and he kicked it high. Mm-hmm. He sacrificed, because we've seen Eric Goyens. He could kick it out of the end zone every time if he wanted.
Every time.
Every single time.
But they knew they could stop USC inside the 25 and make them have to go further.
They did all but once.
Almost every time.
Yeah, and there were several that were inside the 20.
Yes.
And that was
huge. So that's big because Goins can do that, number one. Yep. And number two, there's a lot of faith in that coverage unit to get downfield and make plays.
And have you seen the athletes running down the field on that? I would have faith in them as well.
Dude, I mean, again, the fact that you have a defensive end as like one of your main gunners going right down the middle of the field, I mean, I'm just saying that.
I would have loved to have known what Kennedy Urlacher said to that dude when he laid him out.
Man,
he said something.
I would have loved to have known what Kennedy Urlacher said to that kid.
Hey, I'll go back to what I said at the top of the show, man. Swagger, and it's at the top all the way down to the guys on special teams. They all have swagger, man. They're playing like it, and I freaking love it. I love it. Swagger on special teams, man. Like that's freaking great. It's great.
Yeah.
All right. So they got to get the field goal kicking thing figured out. They got 3 weeks to do it. We'll see. We'll see.
My advice to Marty Biaggi: coverage, keep doing what you're doing. Kick return, nothing you can do about that, bro. Nobody's going to give you that chance.
Right.
Punt, see what you saw today.
Yeah.
Don't ever not do anything but that again, ever. Right? Do that every time. And then PAT field goal, it's like, this is where you're going to make your money, Marty. This is where you make your money right here is you've been a guy that's always been really good at getting your kickers and your punters mentally in their good place because he's someone who did that.
He was a kicker. Yeah.
You're going to make your money in this next 3 weeks, getting Mitch Jeter physically and more importantly, mentally ready to go. And if he can do that, then Mitch is going to be fine. Guys, Mitchell Jeter is money from 45 yards in. Money.
Agreed.
And he was money before he got hurt. His only two misses were both got blocked against Northern Illinois, and one of them was like a 60-something yarder, which the kid's not gonna make that.
Right, that's not fair.
Yeah. I mean, that's where you make your money.
And look,
get him right.
Marty Biaggi would be the first to tell you he's all about the mental. He's all about the mental and what they do mentally and all of that stuff. And we'll see. I mean, he's got 3 weeks to figure it out. We'll see what happens, and I think that will also coincide with him with Mitch getting 100% healthy as well. Yep. So, but anyway, we got a bunch of super chats to get to, Brian, and I'm gonna let you pull them up, and I'll read them, and then you guys just do whatever you need to do. So, Aiden Benami, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you. I love ND. I love IB, and I love this team.
Yeah,
ditto.
Look. Now that the regular season's over and we have something to compare this to, somebody asked, and it speaks to this super chat, is this the best Notre Dame team since Kelly took over? And my answer is record-wise, no. I mean, they went undefeated in 2012, undefeated in 2018, and undefeated in 2020 till the ACC title game. But my answer is, yeah, they are. This is. And part of it, I think, is because of the Northern Illinois game. The record's not as good, but this team is the team that I think is in best position to actually do damage in the postseason. The closest to that was 2018. The 2018 team was the closest to that. And the difference here is like that 2018 team would have got into the first round of the playoff and they'd have beat whoever the number 12 was. Like they'd have been the 5 seed and they beat who number 12 was. Could they have won their next round game? Who knows? But I do believe this is their best team. Just in all phases, they can score at will. Their defense has been lights out most of the year. They're going to get healthier in the postseason when certain guys come back. This team needs rest desperately on defense, especially.
Yep.
I do think this is. I don't know if I could say it's their best team because they're not undefeated like others, but I'll say this: this is the team that I think is the best chance they've had to make a run at a championship since 1993, and the only other one that was close to me was 2018. I still say if that 2018 team would have got better quarterback play in the postseason, I would have. And if Julian Love doesn't get hurt, I would have been very curious to see how that game would have finished.
This team is deeper. This team's a heck of a lot deeper. They've been able to absorb
some
pretty major injuries, and I don't think those other teams would have been able to absorb the injuries that this team is able to.
15 team is the only one that was ever able to really overcome those kind of injuries, but those injuries are why they weren't quite good enough to beat Clemson and weren't quite good enough to finish off Stanford. That and Brian Van Gorder's presence in the state of Indiana was a big drawback as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still get me mad.
Dr. Felonius McGee, thank you very much for the super chat. Grateful for the win and hosting a playoff game. But what in the world happened to our defense today? Should we be worried about a team like Texas or Oregon?
Trev, I think we answered that earlier. It was a bad game. I don't know that there's anything from this game that I would say has me worried, because I just think they had a bad game. I don't think that they were out-athleted. I don't think that the lack of speed was evidence today. Nothing like that I saw. I just think they played a bad game. I really do. I mean, because like you said, okay, they played bad today, but if this team would have played Texas from 2 weeks ago and they played Arkansas, then Notre Dame still wins. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, which version of these teams are you talking about? Like this, they had if this defense would have played Texas the day they only scored 20 points on Arkansas, I'm not worried about Texas at all. If this team would have played the version of Wisconsin of Oregon that only scored 16 points on the road against Wisconsin, I'm not worried. They had a bad day. Just like Oregon's offense had a bad day against Wisconsin 2 weeks ago. That's not normal. If they'd have played again a week later, they'd have won by 30. They had a bad day. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, I just don't like, Notre Dame's defense has one bad game, and everybody goes from who can score points on this defense to who does this defense have to be worried about. Again, it goes back to sample size. What is this defense more like? The first 11 games or their final game? And I'm willing to err on the side of their first 11. It's just, it's weird circumstance. I don't think now, should they be worried? Yeah, Notre Dame should be worried about any team they face in the postseason, because that's one of the 12 best teams in college football. So yeah, they should be worried, but just don't fall into the trap. And I'm not saying that you are, because I understand where your question is coming from.
It's fair.
Yeah. But just don't fall into the trap of Notre Dame has one bad game and now they have to be worried about any team with an offense with a pulse. It's not like that.
Somebody in the chat, who's a very good poster, by the way, said they're worried about Ohio State because they think this is a bad matchup. And I was like, for who? For Notre Dame? Like, did you watch Ohio State today?
I was just about to say,
they scored 10 points on Michigan. And honestly, if you watch that game, Michigan should have won more convincingly. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry.
Michigan didn't have Will Johnson or Colson Loveland. Like,
exactly.
Best players.
And still beat Ohio State at Ohio State. Come on, y'all.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, just don't try to plant a flag. That's when they get me.
If they'd have played that hard for 60 minutes when the game was still in doubt, maybe they would have lost. It's funny. Ryan Day, somebody sent this. Ryan Day after the game said, I don't know what all the details of it, but I know those guys are looking to put a flag on our field, and our guys weren't going to let that happen. And I responded with the tweet a tweet to that. Bill Bender put that tweet out, or that comment out, and I retweeted it, and quote tweeted it, and I said, "That's you just summed up your entire sorry ass career in one sentence." Like that is exactly why Ryan Day sucks. He's more concerned about what Lou Holtz said about him. He's more concerned about Michigan planting a flag on him as opposed to owning him. 1-4. They just lost to a 6-5 Michigan team.
Bad Michigan team.
6-5
with a walk-on quarterback, by the way.
With a exactly. Who's missing their best, their only legitimate offensive weapon that they have was out. This is a team that got beat by 2 touchdowns by Illinois, got smoked by Oregon, smoked by Washington, smoked by Texas, and they just came into your place and bullied you. And your players aren't going to let that happen. I would have been much more concerned of a fan of if they would have we're not going to have it. They're going to try to come in here and run the football on us, and our guys weren't having it. We're not going to let them come run the football on us in our home field. That would have been a better mentality than that, because Michigan ran for 172 yards. They passed for 62 yards, had 0 touchdowns, 2 picks, averaged 3.9 yards per attempt, and beat Ohio State at Ohio State. And this clown is talking about our guys aren't going to let them plant a flag on our field. Like, they planted their flag on your field with another W. Like, you're a joke, dude. Pick on Lou Holtz because he might be someone you can take on right now, because you certainly can't take on Sharon Moore in Michigan because they own you. They are your daddy. That's a fact. Damn. Somebody tweeted at me, said, Ryan Day shouldn't talk to his daddy like that. And I thought that was such a great tweet. Because they are his daddy. They own Ryan Day. This is the worst Michigan team they've had since 2020. and they still went into Columbus and kicked their butts. I mean, we're predicting blowouts for Ohio State, kick their butts for 60 minutes. And this clown is talking about, he said this, but this, I'll find out exactly what happened, but this is our field. And certainly we're embarrassed of the fact that we lost the game, but there's some prideful guys in the team that weren't going to just let that happen. This is your field? No, buddy. This is Michigan's field.
Pride went out.
This is Michigan's field. They own that stadium because you have not beat them there.
Yeah.
That's their stadium, not yours. Theirs. That's Sharon Moore's. Sharon Moore has won more games over Ohio State than Ryan Day has over Michigan as head football coach. Because remember, Sharon was the coach for the game last year because Jim Harbaugh was suspended. So apologize to your daddy and try to do better next time.
Yeah.
Eric Carroll, thank you for the super chat. Eric, appreciate it very much. Now that's a rivalry game. There's still room for improvement, but they handled USC, their worst loss of the season.
Yep.
Go Irish.
Love it, man. Love it. Absolutely. And I want to point this out. Somebody in the chat just pointed this out too. Remember how they blamed all their problems last year on Kyle McCord, right? Kyle McCord's the problem. Well, Kyle McCord just beat a top 10 team today and passed for a crap load of yards and led his team to Kyle McCord today went 26 of 36 for 380 yards, 3 touchdowns, and beat the number 6 team in the country, 42-38. And you blamed him for all your issues last year while you just got handled by Michigan. Because here's the deal. If your offense would have played this year like the Kyle McCord offense played last year, you got a double-digit win. Right? I mean, didn't Ohio State score how many points last year against Michigan? 24?
Yeah.
Right? Maybe now you should finally stop blaming your assistant coaches and your quarterback for the fact you're an overrated coach, that Jim Harbaugh had you pegged on day one. You were born on third base and you thought you hit a triple. And you've been exposed, my friend. You've been exposed. So, yes, great comment there, Andrew. Great comment.
Yeah.
I can't stand that guy. He's
embarrassed. Where Ohio State went wrong is they think that they're something that they're not. You're not a physical football team. Just own it. That's okay. But you're not. Why? Why are you a physical football team? Because you were for 2 quarters against Penn State that one time? You know what I mean? You have a speed advantage. You have an athleticism advantage over Michigan, but Ryan Day got too prideful. It was like, no, we're going to run it down their throats. Against Mason Graham, stop it, dude. Don't do that. I mean, look, I'm not trying to support Ryan Day and give him tips for what he can do to be better. The dude's just a clown.
Because he won't listen anyway.
No. He might if I dyed my hair, but
dyed my beard before the playoff game, look like Ryan Day.
That'd be hilarious.
It just no, dude. It just I do enjoy it. I mean, that's how bad I dislike the guy. I was rooting for Michigan to win that game today, and it's not even about helping Notre Dame. It just was about I can't stand that guy. And also, I love Tony Alford and him and Ryan Day had some disagreements. Yeah, you blamed everything on Tony Alford. You blamed everything on Kyle McCord. You just got owned by Tony Alford's team. His running backs looked a whole lot better than your all-star duo. Come on, bro. You're a joke.
Aiden Benami, thanks for the super chat. That's the one Gray catches. We'll take it.
Yep.
Battled.
I'm saying, I was thinking that the second he made that interception, it's like all the ones that were just hit him in the chest in the middle of the numbers were not completed interceptions.
Take it.
The one where he spins around and catches it almost one-handed and then runs it back 99 yards is the one. But
hey, save the best for last. I'll take it. Or not last, but most recent. Yeah,
yep.
I'll take it.
Heard that.
Yep.
John A1, thank you for the super chat. Perfect game to expose what ND needs to work on going into the playoff. The zone coverage needs some work, but hey, beat Southern Cal in Southern Cal by more than 10.
Vince, you and I say this all the time, man. There's no better place to be as a coach than a game that you win, that you've got a lot of teaching tape, that you can go into your players in the meeting room next week and be like, this is what I was talking about. This is what we got to work on. This we got to improve. That's a great place to be for a coach, man. Great place to be for a coach because you got the job done. And there's a lot of teaching tape to, hey, guys, you were feeling pretty good about yourselves.
Right.
Let's reel this back in. Let's make some corrections. Let's get healthy, and let's come out the next time and handle business. Yep.
Alan Watson, thanks for the super chat. Another highlight by Love. Get well soon.
Yep.
Yeah, I hope. I mean, it wasn't anything structural because the training staff was going to let him come back and play. And so I wasn't overly worried about that. It just, he probably wasn't going to be 100%. So, and he didn't need to get back out there, and he didn't. So I think with some rest, he'll be fine. But that's my non-doctorial opinion on the situation. But like, he was on the bike, he was running, he was doing certain things. Like if it was structural, they wouldn't even have let him do that kind of stuff. So I feel like this is going to be something that he's going to be able to get through.
Yep.
Dude's unreal. Unreal.
Kevin Fetters, thank you so much for the super chat. I hate that freaking song. I know, right?
Man.
I said the same thing to my son. I go, man, I hate this song, but it's kind of catchy. But anyway, how about Christian making a catch and return in the biggest moment of the season? See you all in South Bend in 3 weeks.
That's the worst part about it is I hate that freaking song, but I'm sitting there in the game.
I know.
I'm like, dang it, what am I doing?
I know. That's exactly
it gets in your head, man. It gets in your head. Gets in your freaking head. Yeah, it really gets in your head.
Man.
And I like that they let their band play during the game and don't drown it out by, a DJ.
I didn't hear any music, like,
cool
you
deal.
know,
Yeah,
like,
it felt like a college football game. Imagine that.
Yeah, I
Imagine
know.
that.
I will give them credit for that.
Not like you got a rave going on over here and you've got a football game going on over here, so it's just a football game.
Still can't fill the stadium, though, which I still find comical.
Yeah, I was about to say their band played for their tens of fans.
Manami, thanks for another super chat. From midday summer shows to now, let's keep it going. IB, we're not going to stop anytime soon.
We're not going anywhere.
So, yeah. Matt M, thanks for the super chat. Game felt like Louisville 2.0, but who cares? Home playoff game. Bring on the 12 seed.
I mean, those are two games that Notre Dame trailed for a grand total of what, 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think, yeah.
Look, as far as we're going to talk about seeding and stuff like that tomorrow night, and then obviously on Tuesday as well. But look, Notre Dame probably is going to be, in the 6 seed area.
We'll see.
I would say on Tuesday.
We'll see.
Because I still think they're going to try to prop up Penn State for the Big Ten championship.
Possibly, but if Oregon smacks them, I think that they'll leap Notre Dame ahead.
You didn't let me finish my sentence.
I'm sorry. I'll shut your. Here, let me mute myself again.
They won't have played Oregon yet on Tuesday when the rankings come out. I think they'll prop up Penn State for that game. And then when Oregon does what I think they're going to do to Penn State, then Notre Dame will leap and Notre Dame will be the 5 seed when it's all said and done. Because at this point, with Ohio State losing, the loser of the Big Ten championship is no longer going to be the 5 seed. I think if Penn State wins, then Oregon will be the 5. But if Oregon wins, Penn State's going to drop back, and Notre Dame will then be the 5.
I had to hold back every urge to interrupt you again and say, well, if Penn State gets smacked by Oregon in the Big Ten championship, but no.
I was getting there. You just got, it might be a winding path, but I'll get to my destination. Okay, you just got to remember that. I'll get there. Joe, my man Joe, thanks for texting with me during the game, man. I appreciate it very much. I'm exhausted, spent. Go Irish. Bring on the playoffs tonight and tonight only. Not worried about the mistakes. It's a huge road rivalry win. Thank you, IB crew, for a great regular season. Joe, can I just say this, Joe? And because we talk and stuff like that, I think you'll appreciate this. This is the most positive I've ever heard you. And you were really positive during the game, too. And I will give you full credit for that, Joe. I appreciate you being Mr. Positive because I think I wasn't all that positive at certain points this afternoon. So I appreciate that, Joe. Thank you for the super chat as well.
Appreciate you, buddy.
Tyler Evans, thanks for the super chat. Pick 6 you and playoff next in South Bend. Bring on any team. Let's go, ND. This year feels different.
Look, there's teams in the playoff that can beat Notre Dame, but there's nobody in the playoff that Notre Dame can also beat. Nobody.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody in college football they can't beat. Are they good enough to where they're just going to roll like Clemson did in 18 or, Bama in 20? No, they're not. But, yeah. Especially if they can get healthy.
Right. That's where the 3 weeks comes into play. Thank you, Jack Swarbrick.
Yep, that's right. And let me say this too. I'm also glad they don't have they can't get the bye, because the reality is if it was just top 4 teams, Notre Dame gets a bye, then it's over 4 weeks, and that's too long. And I actually like the 3 weeks. It's perfect. You get a week plus of rest. The second week is sort of start working into the game, and then of course there's game week.
Yeah.
I think it's great. You can limit reps for guys that need the limit reps the first couple weeks, and
100%. 100%.
Love it.
DeVere, thank you so much for the super chat. I think Marcus Freeman is the guy, and I want to end this debate once and for all. This team may not win a championship, but they fight and compete in a way I haven't seen in 30 years. Do you agree?
I agree from the standpoint of Marcus Freeman is the right guy to lead this football team right now. Is he a championship caliber coach? We don't know that yet, and we won't know that yet until he wins one, right? But if you could say you could have any coach in the country leading this football team, would you want anyone other than Marcus Freeman? My answer would be no, I wouldn't, because he's their head coach. But yeah, I think he's a unique presence in that he can recruit the way that you need to recruit, it is harder to recruit than Notre Dame. But my thing has always been, but you can do it if you work at it, and he certainly has done that. I also think it's a situation where, he's evolving as a coach. He's not so shaky in his beliefs that he allows himself to constantly be manipulated. Sometimes you can talk him into something and he'll give you a shot. If it doesn't work, then he's going to not do that anymore, but he's also someone who, when things don't go well, he'll evolve, and his pride isn't so big where he's going to go around, well, it's not my fault. The players did this, the players did that. And you talk about what some people said was the worst loss of his career against Northern Illinois. I don't agree. I think Northern Illinois is way better than 2022 Stanford. But, from a perception standpoint, it was bad. And what has this team done since then? Dominate. They literally won by 59 the next week. That says something about a coach, that your team can have that type. And we're constantly, are they going to show up this week? Are you going to show up this week? They've showed up every week since then, and they've rolled. I mean, that's pretty good. 10-game winning streak, and one of those games was decided by single digits. One.
Where they led for 52 minutes.
Exactly.
Exactly. I will say, in all the teams that I've watched, this does feel different. I'm not calling my shot for, Notre Dame could do it all this year. I mean, could they? Yeah, like the possibilities open for, honestly, any team that they put in the top 12, if you ask me, especially with how crazy this year's been. But this team does compete at a different level. Full transparency, I mean, even as dominant at times, the 2012 team was, and the 2018 team was, and, things like that. Like, there were teams where it was like, okay, in 2018, Notre Dame was going to have to play darn near a perfect game to beat that Clemson team, in my opinion. The injury to Julian Love did not help, but it was, Ian Book was going to have to go to a next level of quarterback play for Notre Dame to win that game. I don't see any future game that Notre Dame has to play where I'm looking at the opponent and saying they just have to play perfect to have a chance to win. I don't feel that way about this team. I don't. So it does feel a little different. It's exciting. And I'll leave it at that, because I don't want to misinterpret and think that I'm saying that Notre Dame's going to go and do it all this year. But I think in the most recent years, this is the closest team that Notre Dame has had to being able to do it. And it's really fun to watch.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Tyler Evans, thanks for the super chat. This is why I love rivalry week. Toss out the records.
Yeah. Dude. We saw USC battle Notre Dame for 60 minutes, played their best game of the season. We watched Michigan just freaking beat, Ohio State, and Michigan's not good. We watched Georgia Tech get screwed out of beating Georgia at Georgia. Those two teams struggled at home. Notre Dame goes on the road and smacks USC, who the computers have in the top 20. We're watching other rivalry games, and you're like, wow, how did that happen? And even the Syracuse game, that's a long time Big East rivalry for Miami and Syracuse have played each other for decades. It's not talked about enough, and it's not like one of their big rivalries, but that's a game that matters. And I see a lot of that. I'd see a lot of rivalry games where these teams are getting beat because they're just not ready to handle it. Notre Dame does what they need to do and literally never trailed and won the game. It's a good place to be. Good place to be.
Miles Whitaker, thank you so much for the super chat. Really enjoyed this morning's pregame show, hoping it becomes a frequent event in the playoffs. And dare we hope next year.
I can only make one promise, and that is that we will have it for next week. We will have it for championship week. There are some logistical things that make it hard to do it every game, but we'll see. Kind of, if I make some changes next year, we'll see. I mean, we'll see how the growth of the channel goes in the offseason. We'll see how the growth of CFB Nation goes this season, because that would ultimately be the ideal place to have that show, would be at CFB Nation. But we'll see. We'll see. But I had a ton of fun, and there's things we learned from it. We talked about it afterwards, okay, maybe limit the number of games we spend a lot of time on and do more of the quick hitters so we can cover more games and things like that. But I had fun. I know these two guys had fun. So we'll definitely do it next week. Beyond that, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We shall
see if the numbers are as good or better than they were next week too, because the numbers were great today. And we'll see if the same kind of crowd shows up next week. So part of that's on you guys. How about them apples?
Ooh, I like it. ND Lou 22, thank you for the super chat. Trevor, now we finally get to see Denbrock's secret playoff playbook.
That's funny. That's good. That's good. I like that. Look, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Okay. And if he has the Waterboy green playbook,
he just needs to come out with the green,
I know.
the green binder and just rolled up. Oh, that would be fantastic.
If that happens, then Joe Rudolph needs to dress up like Farmer Fran, and then I'll buy into it. But if not, then no.
All right. Let's see here. Back to the top. Trevor, why don't you go ahead and read? Nope, that's not what we already did this one, but you can read it again if you want. Let's see here. Oh, boy.
Thank you once again for the super chat, Aiden.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I decided I got to get to where Brian was at. Let's see here. How about, I think this one. There we go.
Super chat from Sean T 3720. Thank you for the super chat, Sean. Longtime YouTube lurker. Thanks for all the great content. Happy Thanksgiving and go Irish. Thank you.
That's awesome. Hey, thanks for continuing to lurk, but then, jumping in and throwing us a super chat, man. Appreciate that very much. So appreciate you being around. That's awesome. Thank you.
Super chat from Alex Udell. Thank you for the super chat, Alex. Lack of depth at corner showed today, but they battled.
Yeah, I mean, look, we knew that they're really one more major injury away from being in a tough position, right? And that's why Christian Gray had to be out there on the very next defensive play after he ran the ball 100 yards, for the pick six. They went right back at him, and he was exhausted. And that would have been a great time to put somebody else in the game, no doubt about it. Didn't have anybody else to put in the game. I mean, let's be honest. So, yeah, it showed. There's no doubt about it. It showed. But I also think communication and scheme and all of those different things played into it as well.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they were just very tired, But I agree. I mean, they are one injury away from it being a little crazy, but they made it through today.
They'll get there.
Super chat from Jeremy Snell 24. Thank you, Jeremy. Big win. Defense wake up call.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't play well. I mean, I don't know that they needed to be woken up per se, but yeah, I mean, this is an opportunity for them to be like, look, we're not always going to be on our game. We might have to work a little harder. We might have to do things a little bit differently. Now teams aren't just going to lay down for us. I get that. And okay, that's cool. I'm cool. Rather have it today than 3 weeks from now or 4 weeks from now or whenever, it's win and go home or lose and go home.
Well, and the one thing that I will say too is I'm happy that this was the game before Notre Dame plays a playoff game. USC has a competent offense. Like this wasn't a bunch of bums on the other side of the ball that have no athletic ability and just can't score points. And they had
a competent defense too.
Yeah. I mean, they still have one of the best offensive minds, younger offensive minds in college football. I do. Like Lincoln Riley doesn't go 80-23 as a head coach.
My face wasn't at that comment, Trevor. It was the injury that.
Okay. I was about to say. I was right.
Sorry. What?
Okay.
You're nuts. So what if he's got 5 starting quarterbacks in the NFL? Who cares? These guys are idiots.
I mean, Brian,
sorry, I saw an injury in the game. I apologize.
No, you were all good, man. But I am happy that this was Notre Dame's matchup because USC, like, they don't have a bunch of bums on the other sideline. This was the first game. I mean, USC is 11-1 when it comes to going into games in the fourth quarter with a lead. This was the first game that they didn't today. Correct. You don't do that if you're not good, right? So, wake up call. I mean, I guess, like, I understand where you're coming from. Like, I do think it is a little bit of it's a nice little nudge, and like it's almost like a reminder, not just a wake up call of, hey, defense, you're really good, but there are teams that can hurt you. You're not going to hold everybody to 11 points. So
I didn't even think about the fact, Trevor, that this is the first game that USC never led in the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm going to say I'm with you, Jeremy. I actually am. I think every team, most teams need a game like this. I do. I mean, even recently, you look at some of the champions. You look at Michigan last year before they were kind of cruising and, went out and beat Penn State without having to throw a pass in the second half. And, and you just kind of look at that Maryland game right before they played Ohio State where they were down early and Maryland was playing well. They only ended up winning by a touchdown. And I think that kind of got them going to be like, hey, we need to figure some stuff out. You know what I mean? You look at 2022, you look at that Georgia team, had that really close call early against Missouri. Remember, they needed to come back and beat that Missouri team. And I think they kind of rolled after that game. You think of 2018 Clemson. I remember there was a game they played late in the year where they ended up winning convincingly, but it was kind of a battle. They played really poorly against Boston College, and the next week kind of started getting it going a little bit. 2016 Clemson losing to Pitt late in the year, and their defense, which was really good, giving up over 40 points. I'm a Broncos fan. I remember, the Broncos starting 13-0 in 1998. And then got kind of embarrassed by the Giants, and it was a little bit of a wake-up call for that football team and lost to the Dolphins the next week, and then, of course, went on the roll and won the Super Bowl. But, I think of that Bama team in 2020 with a little bit of that wake-up call against Florida in the SEC title game. Remember that? 52-46. I think games like this are good because this defense had been playing so well for so long. You sometimes need a reminder of, guys, the little thing that we can't just – we're great when we do certain things. We can't just show up and expect the other team to kind of lay down. We've got to we got to remember what got us here. And I think Vince, you used the word, was it you or Trevor used the word reminder? You might like that better than wake up call, but I think it's the same thing. It's a wake up call. Your alarms wake you up in the morning, or it's a reminder to get you up in the morning, but it's accomplishing the same thing, right? It's, hey, It's time to get up and get back to work. So I think things like this from mature teams are good for them. And I think that's what this could be for the defense because it didn't cost you a loss. And I think that's an important piece to this. So I'm with you, Jeremy. I understand your guys' pushback, but I think games like this are good. I do. Or especially can be good if you have.
Especially when you win them. Yeah.
Exactly, Vince. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I get that. DW9. Thanks for the super chat. Just saying. BK teams would have folded at half. Freeman has his team fighting. I love this team. C- game, and we beat scum. Go Irish.
I'm with it. I just like how that word gets used for SC and then also for UM, for Michigan.
Good combination.
Yeah. Fits.
Good combination.
It fits.
Little guy 131 on today's version of announcers not knowing Notre Dame player's name. My favorite were Billy Schruth and Junior Tuli Hakamaka. Appreciate you guys. Go Irish.
I'm not going to give them a hard time for not getting Junior Tuihalamaka right because I still to this day cannot pronounce the starting quarterback at Tennessee's name, and I just refer to him as Nico. So I'm going to give him a little bit of a pass on Junior. Not knowing Billy Schrouth's name, Sharuth, and all that, that was a little bit.
It is their job, though, Brian.
I get that.
It's not your job to know Nico's last name.
Well, it is because we talk about national college football. So
yeah, but they give pronunciation guides for a reason,
which we can look up before we start shows.
Right? Again, when you're calling the game,
right,
you got it right in front of you. I'm sorry. I have no. You're a professional. You've been doing this for 40 years. You should be able to know how to pronounce guys' names. They give you a pronunciation guide for a reason.
Get all that. I don't disagree with what you're saying at all. What I'm saying is I personally won't criticize that for Junior because I struggle with Polynesian names, if I'm going to be honest with you. But
that's why you're not a play-by-play guy.
Wow. Just crush my dreams.
Part of it.
Just like that. I'm going to try in the corner here.
You've said you don't want to be one anyway. Stop it. All right. Lisa Robinson, thank you for the super chat. We're in. Bring home the championship.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't hear them, the CBS people talking for 60 minutes about how if you win, you clinch a spot.
Yeah, I know.
Why? Because they're not idiot homers that were like, and they shouldn't have. The focus should have been, and they mentioned it a couple times, the focus should have been on the USC Notre Dame game, not what Notre Dame. They mentioned it sort of at the end and all that, but yeah, it's just. This crew actually wasn't terrible. They were good. They just had some mistakes.
Look, as far as I'm concerned, like they weren't homerish on either side. They were right down the middle as far as that part is concerned. It just didn't look like they really did their homework because they were just kind of two older guys that are just doing it and they could just come to a game. And the one guy was talking about, hey, this is a bucket list game for me. I just wanted to see USC play Notre Dame. Like they were just there to have a good time and they're just bringing us along for the ride. Like that's what it felt like more than anything else. Okay, whatever. You guys are like pushing 70 and they're still paying you to do it. So more power to you. Yeah. So Daniel P., thank you very much for the super sticker. Trevor Rocket, my man. Thank you so much for the super sticker and another super chat with an actual chat. So thank you so much, Trevor. Really appreciate you, man. You're big time friend of the show. Guys, love the anger in which Love and Price ran with today. It was good. It was a gong show at times. I've been watching Notre Dame since 1986 to clinch a playoff spot against that team out west equals great. Boys, the O-line battled today. #playoffs.
I agree.
Word.
I agree.
Love that.
I'm going to go through and get a couple of these out. There's a Lisa Robinson. Appreciate you. She put that one in twice. We definitely appreciate that very, very much, Lisa. A couple. We got John B with a super sticker down there. Appreciate you very, very, very much, John. I just wanted to get a couple of those super stickers in so we'll get back to rolling here up top.
David Carpenter, thank you so much for the super chat. Interesting amount, but I still thank you nonetheless. Oh, it's for Christian Gray. Gray showed a lot of heart in that game, and at the end was pretty gassed. The secondary rotation is shallow right now, and I'm thankful Gray kept fighting. New nickname for Gray, stolen from the board. Next play, Gray.
I would have rather him talked about Riley Leonard Riley Mills in this instance.
Yeah, I was going to say Riley Leonard. No.
Riley Mills in this instance, but it's all
we had
good.
Any boxing fans, that might have been the case that somebody wants to throw Riley some love.
Well, I just meant because of the.
I know.
Yeah, but like, isn't that what good players do? You're going to have bad games, right? But what do you do when it matters? What do you do when the game is on the line? That's what tells me this team is got that it thing a little bit.
Agreed.
Is that right there?
Agreed. Alex Rohr, thanks for the super chat. Not every win is going to be pretty, but this is what championship teams do. Incredible resilience. So proud to be an Irish fan.
Agree, man. And Josh Buffo, the motivational business banker, BD just doesn't want any X-Watt super chats. 100%, my friend. 100%. Yes. Did you just read this one?
Nope. Sure didn't. God Country Notre Dame Barbecue, thank you so much for the super chat. Defense didn't have their best day, but when it mattered, they shut the door with 2-time 90-yard pick sixes. Crazy ending. Go Irish.
That's wild. Notre Dame's 2 top leading receivers today were Christian Gray and Xavier Watts, who had 199 yards today on passes that they caught. So
pretty funny.
The Gray one was a great play. The Watts one you saw coming a mile away.
Yeah.
Like that was like, oh, and he knew once he picked it because of the routes they ran, you knew it was like as soon as he caught that, I was like 6. That's 6. Yeah. The Christian one, I was like, oh my gosh. Is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? The Xavier Watts one, because he had a running start when he picked that ball off at the goal line. He had a running start downhill.
Yeah, he did.
But Christian had to catch it, stop, and then get going. Xavier had like a Clint Johnson kick return running start on that one, you knew he was gone. And I can't say how much I love the fact that he just literally taunted the USC bench the entire time. That was so friggin' great by him. I was such a big fan of that
fantastic.
action. You're the All-American. You just put this one away. Just kept looking over at him. It's like, have you seen the movie Midway? The new one, the new version of it.
Oh, yeah.
The scene when Dick Best is about to drop that the second time he sunk a carrier. He's about to drop it and he looks over at Yamaguchi and drops it. And that's what Xavier Watts did today to USC. Like, do you know what's happening to you right now? Boom, I'm going. I love that. I love that very, very much.
Yeah. No, it was awesome. By the way, Xavier Watts also has more touchdowns in the Notre Dame USC game in the last 2 years than Zachariah Branch. I thought I'd also put that out there too.
I dig that because he's got 3, right? He had a fumble return. Did he have a pick 6 last year?
I don't think he had a pick. He got
just
close.
A fumble return? Okay.
Yeah, just a fumble return and the pick 6 this year. But just thought I'd throw that out there.
I love that. I also would like to say that Jadarian Price has 2 touchdowns in this rivalry the last 2 years. Including more on special teams than Zachariah Branch.
He does.
Aiden Benami, thanks for another super chat. Added J-Love to my daily prayer list. Just proud right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he was running around and jumping on the sidelines. I think they were trying to get him going. I don't know what they ultimately decided. I didn't get a chance to listen to Coach Freeman's press conference.
Yeah, and they said that the sideline reporter said that Love looked at the trainer and just kind of shook his head and took his helmet off, kind of a deal. Like he was testing it. But it just wasn't.
Which tells me it was a feeling thing, not the team evaluating him and saying you are structurally not stable to go. If you're a running back and you're feeling not good,
exactly
in a ligament or a knee or an ankle, then you gotta be smart, especially when you've got a guy like Jadarian Price as your number 2.
Right.
And they need him to be healthy.
Yep.
They need both of those guys to be healthy.
Phil Frank, thanks for the super chat. Yep, not our A game, but here's the difference. Coach Freeman has created a culture of team, toughness, fight, and nasty attitude with swagger equals W's. Not wrong. I mean, there's a video circulating that I saw kind of during the show, after the alma mater and Marcus Freeman and how freaking fired up he was to win this game. You're kidding yourself if you don't think a team feeds off that. I'll just say that. I mean, he was fired up to win this game, man. Fired up. And I love it.
There was something that I think clicked in Marcus Freeman this year, and we saw it a little bit last year. We saw where we talked about how he just was kind of pissed off the last 3 games after the loss to Clemson. And I thought early this year, I thought after the A&M game, I thought he kind of went away from that. And I don't know, I wouldn't say he kind of got a little tight, but he just went away from that fire. And we heard the pregame, we just got a methodical, and it's no, after he was just screw this. If people don't like it, then people don't like it. I'm going to say what I want to say. I'm going to use the word violence when I talk about my football team. And if you're too soft to handle that, then you're too soft to handle that. That's your problem. That's not my problem. Marcus Freeman is being himself. Dude was a middle linebacker at Ohio State, had over 100 tackles in his last season. Right? He is not a calm guy. I don't want him to be a calm guy. Be yourself. There's a time and a place to be calm and give your speeches and do all that. And then there's a time to be freaking fired up.
Yep.
And you are 100% correct, Vince. The reason it works is not because he's energetic. It's because that's who he is. Other coaches could give the same exact reactions and speeches, and it's dude, that's so forced. And you can see it. When we were all players, we saw it.
Yep.
If somebody else tried to be like Lou Holtz, then they'd see right through it. It's
not genuine. Yeah, right. It's not genuine.
Exactly. And
nothing about Marcus Freeman would you say is disingenuous?
Yeah,
I will say that. We've talked about this many, many times, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but when he's up speaking at press conferences, and I mean, he's almost too honest about some things.
Sure, which I like.
Oh, I do too. From a content creator and all that, love it. But I'm just saying, there's nothing about him that is disingenuous. That's who he is. And I love that. And players see right through phony.
Yep.
And Marcus Freeman's not phony, man. He's not phony.
Yep. And I love the fact that the players talked about this in the press conference on Tuesday. And every building in the football facilities, including the practice facility, they had the 2022 USC game playing just on loop. Players were talking about that on Monday night. I freaking love that.
Yeah, it's big.
Love that.
Be fast. Thank you so much for the super chat. Playoffs. Let's win the darn thing, baby.
Yep. Only one thing left to do, right? Isn't that they say? Only one thing left to do. Win the whole thing.
You know how pumped I am that we don't have to care about margin of victory anymore.
Yeah. I know.
Oh my God. I cannot put into words how happy if Notre Dame goes and wins every playoff game 9-6.
Don't care. Doesn't matter.
I literally don't care. Like, it's just, oh man, I can't wait.
Doesn't matter.
Let's go.
Doesn't matter.
Agree.
Chief Brody, thanks for the super chat. Don't jinx them by buying those playoff tickets.
Somebody, I was giving my guy Jack Frencho a hard time because he said last week, I don't care. I'm going to buy tickets. And I said, if they lose this week, Jack, I'm blaming you. And he said, hey, looks like I didn't jinx them. And I said, yes, you did. Because if you wouldn't have bought them tickets last week, they'd have won by 50. So I'm still blaming you.
I do know some people that were waiting to purchase those tickets because they're open until December 6th for season ticket holders. And there were definitely some people that were holding out. So
I get it.
We'll see.
I get it. If you're a season ticket holder and you want to buy, you don't want to go or you can't go and you want to buy your tickets, and give me a call. I'm buying.
Right. I know people that
for my dad and mom and stuff. So if you got tickets to that game, let me know. We'll hook you up. So
Jonathan Burns, thank you so much for the super chat. Playoffs, baby. Go Irish. Thank you to the best Notre Dame coverage going.
You are most
Thank
welcome.
you,
We
Jonathan.
appreciate that very, very much.
You. Walk on, carry off. Thank you for the super chat. Notre Dame was a year away from losing a 2-touchdown lead with 5 minutes left. Then they went up by 21. That's what the Bamas have been doing every time I think they had. Huge line in the sand.
100%.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. Put them away. They put them away when it mattered. It was a one-score game, and USC is driving with less than 4 minutes to go. And just like that, Notre Dame's up by 21. That's how that went. And it was glorious.
Yeah.
Yep.
John Monty, thanks for the super chat. I hope they extend Freeman's contract, seeing that OSU might be looking for a coach. Can I just say that Ohio State, look, they may do it, but Ryan Day has a $37 million buyout right now. Now, maybe that's not a lot of money to some Ohio State, boosters, and maybe it's not. It's a lot of coin to be shelling out for a coach who's probably going to make the playoff and to fire. Now, they might. And would I be upset if in this 3-week time period they got Marcus Freeman to sign an extension? Would not be upset by that in any way. But people's fear of Marcus Freeman going to Ohio State, I think, is a little aggressive right now. I'll just say that.
I think Notre Dame fans need to stop being paranoid about every possible bad scenario that happens to them.
Marcus Freeman going to the NFL.
If he goes to the NFL, he goes to the NFL. He goes to somewhere else, he goes somewhere else. I'm not going to worry about things that we don't know are going to happen. I'm going to enjoy today. And if the last several months has taught me anything, I'm going to enjoy the moment. I'm not going to worry about if they lose him at this time or another time. I'm going to enjoy the fact that right now he's their head football coach and he's doing a phenomenal job. And I'm not going to worry about what may or may not be. If they lose a game between now and the end of the season, they're going to lose a game. But for right now, I'm going to enjoy the heck out of the way this football team is playing. And I would just encourage you guys to do that. Now, I am going to write an article tomorrow or Monday, one of these 2 days, where I'm going to say Notre Dame needs to extend Marcus Freeman.
I completely agree with that.
I wholeheartedly believe they should not do it until the end of the regular season. But what he's done this year, and because I wanted to see finish the deal.
Sure.
Right? Winning 9 in a row and then losing the 10th is not good enough, right? Winning 8 in a row and then losing the 10th or 11th or whatever is not good enough. But with what this team has had to overcome, with all the injuries and the way that they've played and the fact that they beat all their rivals, they won ugly, they won pretty, they won a low scoring game to start the season, and they won a shootout to end the season, both on the road.
Yeah.
Tells me, hey, look, I mean, Notre Dame looked a whole lot better against Georgia Tech than Miami or Georgia did. And the other part about it, they didn't have Haynes King. Well, that was Notre Dame's first game without Benjamin Morrison. So I'll see your Haynes King, and I'll raise you arguably the best cornerback in college football.
Yeah, All-American. and really, really
Good,
solid
gritty,
quarterback.
good football player that had just lost
But big difference.
Louisville. You know what I mean?
Difference.
And I believe, didn't they also lose to Syracuse? Right.
Sure.
So, I thought they lost to Syracuse and they lost to Louisville before Notre Dame beat them with Haynes King. So I love the kid, great player, gritty player, but Notre Dame, Georgia Tech wasn't winning that. And if anything, I felt like not having him made Notre Dame not be as focused early in the game as I think they would have been if he would have played. Just being honest with you.
That's fair. ND Lou 22, believe this is your second super chat. Thank you so much. Hopefully the disrespect for Price can stop. No, he isn't Love, but he's one heck of a number 2 back that put the team on his back all season when his number was called. He's not a number 2
He's
back.
not a number 2 back. He's a number 1 back who happens to just have an even better number 1 back on his team, guys. Like, can we stop? He's number 2 on the depth chart. He's not a number 2 running back.
It says or on the depth chart, so I wouldn't even call him a number 2 back on the depth chart.
And Indy Lou, I'm not responding to you, my friend, because you're giving him some love. But I just do not understand this notion that comes from some people that, like, I don't know why Jeremiah Love or Jordarian Price is getting touches. You want to complain about Devin Ford getting touches, go for it. But you're going to talk to me about a guy that's got over 600 rushing yards and averages over 7 yards a carry, comes off the bench when your star gets hurt and goes for 100 yards, and people are going to disrespect that, to Indy Lou's point. It's what I tried to warn people about before the season, and they just don't listen. And some people don't watch our show, that's a them problem, and they should probably rectify that problem. But good. Don't get into the whole team digs and team whatever crap that people got into in the past with those 2 guys. Accept the fact that they're both great running backs and you need both of them. And sometimes you're going to have to ride the hotter hand. That's just the reality of it. And the fact is this kid is a stud. Guess who else is a stud? Jeremiah Love. You have 2 stud running backs. Actually, I'd argue you have more than that, but right now one of those studs is redshirting, and we'll see him next year. But the reality is this notion that people just can't enjoy both of them being studs is just mind-boggling to me. But I know, Indy Lou, those people are out there. I'll send you guys a tweet that somebody sent me. Actually, I'm going to send it to you now. We won't talk about it during the show, but I just thought it was funny. I got a big kick out of it.
Love it.
Nick sent it to me, and you're just like, some people, man, I tell you what, some people, you just can't ever be happy. You know what I mean?
That you're going to have that over the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
What it is.
So just sent you guys the tweet. But yeah, Jeremiah Love's a stud. He's a starting running back for 99% of the teams in college football. And he's part of the best 1-2 punch in college football right now. There's no doubt.
Fred Lundian, thank you so much for the super chat. Love the win. USC exposed some holes.
I don't agree with that. I look, again, they had a bad game. Just like Arkansas didn't expose any holes in Texas's offense. They just had a bad game 2 weeks ago. That's it. A week after Ole Miss, I think it was a week after Ole Miss hung like 69 on them and had 700 yards of offense. And Texas goes out, I think, a week or 2 later and plays terribly. It had a bad game. I don't think they exposed any holes. I think they had a bad game, and USC played great. You try that again next week, that stuff may not work. That's just the reality of it. Just like Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame, didn't expose holes that would have been existent the next week. It exposed some aspects of Notre Dame where they weren't playing to the level they're capable of. But a hole to me shows you that you're just not good there and somebody exposed it. That's a hole. Something like this is more of a, you didn't play well, and that other team showed that when you don't play well, this can happen to you. That's what Northern Illinois was. That's what USC was today for the defense. Because again, with all due respect to the good receivers that USC has, I don't believe any of them that they play is better than Ja'Cory Brooks. I don't think any of those guys are better than Ja'Cory Brooks. I don't think the receiving core is as good as the one that Louisville has. Their quarterback played better. Their offensive line was better in pass pro for most of the game, and their receivers played their butts off, and Notre Dame did not play well. Simple as that to me.
Ryan Schulte, thank you for the super chat. Thanks, IB. See you in South Bend in a few weeks.
Oh, can't wait.
We'll see you there. Cannot wait. Isaiah Lehman, thank you for the super chat. J Love, I will pay for anything you need to get healthy. We are dancing. #go Irish. It's one thing I don't think you're going to have to worry about. Notre Dame will help him out with whatever he needs. Indy Lou 22, thanks again for another super chat. Some people can't grasp that praising Price isn't knocking Love, and sorry for calling him the number 2 back. LOL. That's funny.
Indy Lou, I hope I know it came across like I was going at you. It was not going at you, man. You were sticking up for J Love. We're good, buddy. It was more of your tweet triggered something in me that drives me absolutely nuts. It's like, can't you just enjoy that Notre Dame has? I mean, could you imagine if social media and message boards existed like they did now back in like 1988?
Oh man.
It'd be like, why are they playing Mark Green? Or why, you know what I mean? It's like they need to only play.
Tony Rice would have been, he would have been hated by people. He can't throw.
Yeah.
He can't throw. Why do they?
Yeah.
Oh, it would have been great.
Would have kind of pissed me off, actually. I would have probably been a little pissed by it. But yeah, you're good, man. We appreciate you, Lou. We do.
Isaiah Lehman, thank you so much for the super chat. We already got this one, but thanks again, Isaiah.
Sorry. It's just such a great chat. I wanted to bring it up again.
It's all good. Yeah, I thanked him again. It's all good. Facilitate. Thank you for the super chat. Good competitive game for us before heading into the postseason. Question: why no Notre Dame band? It was just USC band playing every play, even if it was a positive play for Notre Dame.
I don't know. How often does Notre Dame's? I don't pay attention to these things. How often does their band travel to USC?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I know Notre Dame's band doesn't travel for very many road. I mean, guys, you got to understand that Notre Dame band is bigger than the football team.
Yeah.
The number of people that are on there as far as student athletes, that's a really expensive trip.
Right.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of expensive trip.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think people think that these football programs are just like running in money and it's just like an endless supply of revenue. And that's not really how it works.
Yeah. I'm looking at the ND band Twitter right now, and I don't think they went on the road at all this year. I'm just seeing a lot of home game type stuff.
Yeah, that I don't like. They should. They should have. I don't know. Purdue probably didn't let them because they're still salty about
the drum.
Yeah, the stupid
you didn't
drum.
let us have our drum.
Yeah,
it's a big drum. Full Life. Thank you so much for the super chat. Really, really appreciate it. CFB is wide open this season. Why not Notre Dame this year?
Agreed.
Go Irish. I'm glad some people are starting to come around to that, by the way.
Yeah.
The last few weeks have really highlighted the fact that there are no elite teams. Like everybody's beatable. Yeah. Everybody's beatable. Oregon won obviously today, but Washington gave them some fits. Washington gave Oregon some fits at times, right? So like every team has holes.
Yeah.
What? One thing that I think is interesting that I've been thinking about this quite a bit is we've all been saying quite a bit that there's just no elite teams. There's just no elite teams. Notre Dame's pretty elite, man. 10 straight games. None of them have been close. This one felt close.
You get the bell.
Thank you. But I've been thinking about that. It's like, there's just no elite teams. That's why it's wide open. It's like, maybe it's because the team that we cover is pretty elite, but it's just kind of some uncharted territory a little bit. At least it is for me. So I'll just leave that up to interpretation. And
everybody will have their opinion over the next few weeks.
Yep.
That's for sure.
I just got that Winona Judd song in my head. Why not me? This is how I feel about Notre Dame. Just why not? Why not them? Why not?
Why not Texas A&M? It's looking good right now.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, they're still down 10, but they're about to score.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying.
So,
Miles Whitaker, thank you so much for the super chat. ND is in the national championship game and brings its A+ game. Which of the possible opponents that brings its A+ game matches up best with Notre Dame, both coaching and talent?
Oregon is one.
With
their speed. They're one of the few teams that can match Notre Dame for speed. They've got real dynamic receivers, a lot like USC, and a much better quarterback. Their D-line's not great, but it's good. Their D is good. Their offensive line is good. It's not great. But if Oregon's playing their A game and Notre Dame's playing their A game, that's a team that can move the ball on this offense. Honestly, the team that I was most concerned about is not going to make the playoff, and that's Ole Miss. Alabama would concern me if they're on. They're a real dangerous team when they're on, but they're just not on a lot.
Yeah.
And that's, guys, Texas is probably the other one because Texas has a really good defense in their offense. But we're watching them against A&M tonight, and they're having this. They turned the ball over twice inside the 15-yard line, throw a pick six inside the 15-yard line. Ewers fumbles a ball inside the 15-yard line. Every team's got holes, fellas. Every team's got flaws, as you guys have stated. But I'd say Oregon and Texas are probably the two that would be the the tightest matchups for me, as far as what they do well compared to what Notre Dame does well, and vice versa. You guys agree with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I know SMU poses some issues maybe offensively.
That's a good one. Well, their defense is pretty scrappy too. They have a very
They are. I still like Notre Dame's offense against their defense. It's hard for me, obviously coming off the game that we just saw with Notre Dame and their defense. But at the same time, I've been watching Notre Dame's defense to the other 11 games as well. I just bring on whoever, man. At this point, I'm really okay with it. Somebody said, maybe Notre Dame gets Ohio State at home in the first round.
Great,
cool, awesome,
great.
Bring it on. I'm totally fine with that. I'm fine with whatever at this point. I really am, and I need to go back. And I've obviously these conference championship games are going to be fun to watch. I haven't really watched a whole lot of Oregon this year. I want to watch Oregon. I want to see where they're at. Are they the same team that they were early on when they had some scares about losing, or have they gotten a lot better between then and now?
Both. I mean, it's the same thing. Like most weeks, they're like, again, it's about if they play their A game. But I think Oregon would have to play their A game to beat Notre Dame, and I think Notre Dame would have to play their A game to beat Oregon. Teams rarely ever play their A game together. And a buddy of mine was like, I said to a buddy of mine who said that, he said, he said, well, I think USC Penn State in 2015 and 2016. I think both of those teams played their A game. I said, no, both of those offenses played their A game. It was 51-49. Both teams didn't play their A game.
Yeah, right.
Both offenses did, right? It's hard. It's impossible. USC Texas 05 is probably the closest I've ever seen to two teams playing their A game because defenses and that's the closest you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of where I'm coming from on those. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
Gregory Gilbert, thank you very much for the super chat. Day is the younger BK.
Don't disrespect Brian Kelly like that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I said it.
Okay, good. I'm not touching this one with a 10-foot pole.
Brian Kelly has won championships at different levels. Brian Day is not, I believe, correct?
He's got two Big Ten championships, Brian. Don't be that guy.
Brian Kelly has conference championships as well. Honestly, I would take Brian Kelly in a big game over Ryan Day. That's how bad Ryan Day is. Love it. Brian Kelly actually knows how to beat Jim Harbaugh. He's beat Jim Harbaugh a couple times. Once at least at Michigan, right?
Well, he beat him when he was at Stanford too. Right?
No. Harbaugh left in 2010.
Okay.
And so Charlie beat him once in 2007. Or no, Charlie beat him twice. Wasn't Harbaugh's first year 2006, but he beat him in 2007. And I think they beat him in 2008 as well. I have to go back and remember that game, but they beat him in 2009, beat him in 10, beat him in 11 with Shaw. But he beat him in 2018 when he was at Michigan. And so Ryan Day should maybe give Brian Kelly a call and say, hey, how do you beat Jim Harbaugh? How do you beat Michigan? Because we don't know how to do it. Because Brian Kelly owns several beat Michigan in they beat him in 12.
Beat him in 12, but it's been, vacated.
Beat him in 13 or beat him in 14. It's not vacated to me. Screw them. Screw those clowns.
I get it.
Beat him in 14. Beat him in 18. He's got 3 wins over Michigan. So maybe Ryan Day should take notes. That's how bad Ryan Day is. And I think Brian Kelly, I would rather sit down and have dinner and talk to Brian Kelly than I would Ryan Day. Flat out.
Okay. I'm busy that night.
Trevor's like, that sounds like 2 horrible options.
I know something will come up. ND Lou 22, thank you very much for another super chat. By the way, IB countdown to kickoff equals Chef's Kiss. He's the manja. Yeah, my man, love it. That's good.
You're gonna like this, Vince.
Wow. See, Angela and I, we'll go out together. We'll go get dinner.
She ain't done yet.
Oh, that's great.
I didn't say I'd enjoy it. I just said I'd rather do it.
Andrew Gilmore, thanks for the super chat. I was dead wrong about Freeman. Remarkable coaching job. Injuries and NIU to 10 wins in a row and top at large playoff seed. You're right, man. Look, We were all down on the program, on Marcus Freeman, on a lot of aspects of things on the eve of September 7th. We all were, and rightfully so. And I said, I'm not looking past 1 week to the next.
Yep.
And you know what? Notre Dame didn't do that either.
That's right.
And that was, they had 10 games of elimination games. They've been in the playoffs since September 8th, guys. They've been in the playoffs since September 8th. You're 10-0 in the playoff right now. So I feel good about where this team is. I'll just say that, man. And maybe I wasn't as down on the situation as Andrew was, but there were plenty of people that were, and with good reason. With good reason. And they proved a lot of people wrong. And I love that.
Agree.
Joe M, thanks for the super chat. Notre Dame just won 10 consecutive elimination games. Thanks, Joe. Absolutely impressive. Where do you guys rank Gray's pick among greatest Notre Dame plays ever?
Ever?
I don't know about that. I mean, that was a big. I mean, that was the biggest pick six against USC since Stanton Magala did that back in 1988. Wasn't as long, but remember he had a big one back in 1988 where he stepped the same direction, opposite side of the field. Going left to right from the camera angle. You guys are a little too young to remember that one, but yeah.
Yep.
Best one against USC since then. Yeah, for sure.
I said it gave me Benjamin Morrison against Clemson vibes. Kind of the same side of the field, kind of the same distance.
Bigger moment.
Big game. Yeah, right.
Much bigger moment. That made a 21-0 game 28-0. Yeah. This one took a potentially risky game time
situation,
and turned it into ball game.
Yeah. No, I agree with that very much. So yeah, I mean it's in the neighborhood, but knocking down that ball against Florida State, there's been some big defensive plays, in the past, but it's still a great play. I'm not taking anything away.
Who was it? Was it? It wasn't Jimmy Friday. Who was a linebacker that had that monster hit against USC at the goal line? You guys remember that back in the 90s? Oh, my gosh. Help me out, chat. Who was the linebacker? And I'm going to be so pissed when you guys remind me who it was. There was a linebacker, Keenan Tatum. That's who it was. Had a monster hit. You guys should go look it up. Keenan Tatum USC hit. I think a Deke Cooper's stone at the line of scrimmage against BC. There have been some big-time plays. Yeah. Big time plays, but this was a big one. Certainly the biggest one against pick six against USC for a while.
It was huge,
long while. I mean, you got the Stanford overtime goal line stand. I mean, there's been some big ones. So, yeah.
Kevin Fetters, thanks for the super chat. Only team not to trail to USC this year at all.
Yep.
Look, every game that USC has lost was by single digits. It was a one-possession situation in every single game, and they had the lead in the fourth quarter in every game. I mean, look, national media is going to poo-poo this win because that's what they'll do. And
even the ones who picked USC to win, like
correct
Davis and Josh Pate and people like that,
100%
picked USC to win. Will try to act like, well, blah.
And that's fine. They can think whatever they want because eventually they're gonna have to stop making up excuses. When Notre Dame continues to prove them wrong, and that's fine. Like it's all good, man. This team's playing just fine as an underdog for a lot of these people. So I'm cool with it. Keep doubting Marcus Freeman and this team. Just keep doubting him.
Yeah, and to set the stage and the expectation, that's not going to go away.
Right.
Yeah. It's going to be this way.
They're going to win a title. And if they were to win a title, be like, well, yeah, but you caught it in a year where Bama and Georgia were down. They're going to say crap like that. I don't care, though. I don't care.
Me neither. Me neither.
I don't.
I could care less. After last year, I could care less about who won the national championship last year. In a year where that same team had a cheating scandal and had the worst strength of schedule I've ever seen. Notre Dame could win a national championship this year against anybody, and you could tell me nothing.
Nothing.
Doesn't matter.
Nothing. And I'll give you literal and virtual middle fingers the entire time you're trying to talk to me.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Literal and virtual.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes in a situation like this, it'd be virtual. It'd be mental. It'd be I'm telepathically sending you a bunch of middle fingers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If it was off camera, it'd be literal.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm with you. Steven Springfield, thanks for the super chat. Much love to IB. Much love right back to you. Game wasn't pretty, but can't spell suck without USC.
I love that one.
You're not wrong.
I love that one.
Justin, thank you for the super chat. Like, comment, subscribe. Love you guys. Go Irish. I love you, Justin.
That's right.
I'm not ashamed to say it.
Appreciate you, Justin. Vince, what's in that cup you got over there, man? You good?
More milk.
Dude, we're getting to the witching hour. It's starting to get there.
Yeah, we started at 10, guys. We've been
yeah.
That's what we do for y'all,
yeah.
though. That's why we love
I'm
y'all.
saying we're getting there. I'm getting slap happy. All
I
right.
love y'all.
Dennis Stockton, thank you so much for the super chat. The NIU game is the first week of basic training for this team. It's all about teamwork and accomplishing the mission.
That's what they did.
That's legit at the moment, for sure.
No question. No question. A&M could not punch that one in the end zone. They got stoned on
kidding me.
They got stoned on 4th and goal from the 1 foot line.
Unbelievable.
It's amazing that their offenses looked not that great with Marcel Reed at quarterback outside of playing Brian Kelly's team.
Joe, thanks for another super chat. Do you think the Irish D played? I do think the Irish D played physical. With that in mind, I feel like our opponents seem to have a lot of injuries when they play us. Thoughts?
Yeah, we talked about that
100%.
last week. We talked about that, especially the Virginia game. Like, it seemed like every series there was at least one guy limping off the field or down on the ground against Virginia.
On both sides of the ball, by the way.
Yeah, it's a very
and that has been, honestly, that's been the case since game 1 against Texas A&M. Remember how many guys were dropping against Notre Dame and they weren't Notre Dame guys in that A&M game?
That's what was so frustrating about the Northern Illinois game, because that's the one game they didn't play like that.
I know. I'm with you. Kevin Fetters, thanks for another super chat. Next few episodes of Emmy-winning Here Come the Irish drop this week.
That'll be fun to watch.
A little must-see TV.
Yep.
Jacob Watson, thanks for the super chat. I was pretty pumped the way the offense moved the ball. I also loved how the D responded at the end. Who y'all think we get in the first round, and what seed?
That's a tough. I mean, right now, I'd project 6 seed. Right now, let's see how the Big Ten title game goes. Yeah. No, for projecting to the end.
Oh, okay.
I think it would require a Penn State blowout for that to change, or meaning Penn State gets blown out. It would require that to change. I don't know that beating USC by 14 in a somewhat competitive game is going to be enough for the committee to jump Notre Dame ahead of Penn State. I just don't think that it will be, and I'm okay with that at this point in time. But I just don't think that that'll be enough. Now, if Penn State gets smashed by Oregon, then, but the counter is their one loss doesn't look as good as it did last week either.
Bingo.
Freaking Michigan beat Ohio State. That just makes my freaking day.
Well, it does now that Notre Dame did what they did to USC, for sure.
Well, I'll be honest, that game, that made me nervous.
Yeah.
Watching what Georgia Tech did last night and watching Michigan, who's terrible.
Yep.
And
yeah.
Geez Louise.
I've been saying all along I thought Notre Dame was going to get the 6 all along. But that was when I thought Ohio State had some cojones and they'd be able to beat Michigan. So that has changed things. That Ohio State losing to Michigan, now I feel like Notre Dame is going to get the 5 when it's all said and done.
Really?
So that's my prediction.
Interesting.
Notre Dame gets the 5 and they'll have Boise State at home.
So you think Penn State falls behind them and after the
they may fall behind them this week. They should, but they won't, because they want to keep this as a highly ranked Big Ten championship. But I think after they take that L from Oregon, I think Notre Dame jumps them and they'll be the 5. I think that's what ends up happening.
Yeah.
The only way that doesn't happen is if Penn State wins. Penn State wins that game.
I think if
Oregon will
Penn
be
State
the
plays
5.
Oregon competitive for 4 quarters, that they'll be ahead of Notre Dame for the same reason I think Ohio State would have. I think the leader of the playoff committee is a sitting Big Ten athletic director. I think,
but he doesn't have the final say.
He's got a lot of sway.
He's 1/13 of the vote.
Yeah, but there's some things that the chair can do to, I just feel like they needed a more convincing win than this to jump Penn State. Okay. I think they should jump them. I think they should have jumped them weeks ago. I'm not saying what should happen, Vince. I'm simply saying what I think will happen. But I don't want to get too deep into that because you and I are going to talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah, we are.
And I love your optimism. And
I'm going to get
correct.
Fired up too.
As far as their opponent, man, I'd have to think that all the chaos of this last couple games, I'd have to think through that.
I know. Seriously. If they're the 6, I have no idea who they're going to host.
None.
At this point. None.
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 Yeah. No clue. No clue. Ryan Higgins, real quick. He had a super sticker first, Vince, that I took away before we get to it. Thank you, Ryan, for that super sticker. Appreciate you, man. Now we can get to a super chat.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate you very much. What do we think happened on the Riley Leonard interception? Do you think Riley Leonard or Mitchell was running the wrong route?
I think that was on Riley. I think it
just didn't get anything.
I think Riley thought Chris Mitchell was doing something different, but I think Riley was wrong in thinking Chris Mitchell was going to do something different.
Yeah,
in my opinion. And even if Mitchell was supposed to back shoulder that's a terrible back shoulder ball too.
Yeah, it was thrown to the inside.
Even if Chris Mitchell does what Riley Leonard thought he was going to do. I think what happened, guys, is it would not shock me. And Trevor, you played quarterback. You know this has happened every now and then. Sometimes you're about to throw a ball and the receiver does what you don't think he's going to do, and you kind of get caught short
arm it.
And I think maybe that's why it was such a bad throw. But either way, Riley's got to make a better read and a better throw on that. Simple as
Agreed.
That.
Yep, yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Tyler Evans, thanks for the super chat. Indiana had a more impressive win over Purdue than we did. Just trying to make a joke. LOL. By 7 points.
They won 66-0. Poor Purdue. Yeah, Ryan Walters is done.
By 7 points.
I'm not saying I enjoy that, but you can't lose multiple games by 50 plus points. And that's bad. That's really bad.
Yeah.
Tyler Evans, guess who didn't need overtime to beat USC like some other Big Ten team?
Right. We all agree, right? I mean, are we all on the same page that Notre Dame should be ahead of Penn State?
Yeah.
But
yes.
Should?
On the same page about whether they will be.
Should.
Just so everybody's clear. Our only disagreement is to whether or not it will or won't happen. It's not on whether it should or shouldn't happen. We all agree that it should happen.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I'd been saying it since last week. If a 35-point win over an undefeated opponent wasn't enough to vault Notre Dame above Penn State, then nothing would. I mean, Notre Dame could have won today 60-0, and it wouldn't have vaulted them above Penn State. I firmly believe that.
Oh, hope you're wrong. But, yeah, I definitely don't think this was going to be enough to do that. It should, but I don't think it will.
And did they watch the game? That's going to be my question, because Notre Dame should have won by 21 points.
Agree.
And they let USC just go right down the field, even though USC was trying to wave the white flag, but Notre Dame was like, "No, you're good. Just keep on running." So we'll see. We'll see. Beef Eater, thanks for the super chat. Watts to USC bench during the pick six run. Hey guys, you should watch the IB post game show and see what went wrong. Smell you later.
I love it. Sounds right to me. Sounds good.
Yeah,
sounds
man.
Good. Yeah.
Roger Dodger was in with, by the way, very respectful comments.
Roger's great.
That,
I mean, Roger's always been a USC fan.
Yep.
We'll talk about the things that he likes about his team, and we'll talk about things. He'll talk about things where maybe he doesn't think Notre Dame is as good as we do. He'll talk about things where he thinks Notre Dame is really good.
And Archer was in here too.
Like and I like guys that you don't have to agree with us. Sure. Antoine Johnson used to be in here a lot. You have to agree with us. Just be respectful and talk football. And Roger Dodger's always been that way. And that's why he's always welcome here. You don't ever hear, "Oh, freaking get out of here, USC fan." Oh, that's great. We had a USC fan in the chat during the week, and he was really good. Yeah. He was like, Five Adams, a Bama fan. Always real respectful. Doesn't always agree with us. Doesn't have to. Always respectful. So we appreciate that very much. Somebody asked if we got to 40 points a game. They're at 39.8. Oh. Yeah.
Miles Whitaker, thank you so much for the super chats. So many super chats tonight. Agreed. Love the Notre Dame love after such a big win. Notre Dame is number 5.
Big time. I'm going to handle this last one, Vince.
Okay.
This is a super chat from Jim Halloran. He says, "In honor and memory of Brian's grandmother. Go Irish." Jim, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, man. My grandmother was literally, and my mom knows this, the most amazing woman I've ever met in my entire life. And Trevor and I have talked a lot about this because he had to give his eulogy to his grandmother's funeral as well. And 122 kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, or great-great-grandkids. And truly just an amazing, amazing, loving woman. And the theme of my eulogy was the different ways that the old Koine Greek language has 7 different forms of the word love. There's not one word that's strong enough to describe all those forms of love, and how my grandmother lived out the biblical view of love, unconditional love, supportive love, She was really just an amazing woman. And I told my wife, my goal with her passing is to someday become the man that she thought I was. And it was just who she was. It was genuine. She had to work at it. She just was that kind of person. And so I can't tell you how much I appreciate your super chat and how the honor that it was for me to be asked by my family to give her eulogy. And I don't know how you do justice to someone who was that awesome and amazing, but I did my best and did my best. So, but I appreciate this. And I got so many text messages, so many DMs, so many Facebook posts and message board posts from people wishing me well and sending me prayers and stuff like that on this. And it just reminded me of why I'm so thankful that this community exists and appreciative of all that you all do. We do a service for you guys, but you guys give it back to us in that love and support. And it does not go unnoticed or unappreciated. I know, Vince, you experienced that when you lost your father.
Yep.
I experienced that when my wife, when I lost our child, and they experienced that when I lost my grandmother. And I am so thankful that this community exists because it makes going through things like that easier because of how many amazing people there are that spoke love into our lives. And so I appreciate that very much. And Jim, thank you for choosing for that on a day like this when we're so excited about things we're excited about, that you chose to use your super chat for that. Man, I can't express how much that means to me and how thankful I am. And can't think of a better way to end the show than that. I appreciate you, man. Go ahead and take us out of here, Vince.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for hanging out with us. Really appreciate it. Big win for the Irish, obviously. Final score, Notre Dame 49, USC 35. Notre Dame gets to sit back, relax, and see what the College Football Playoff Committee has for them over the next two rankings. We got one on Tuesday, and obviously we will break that down on Tuesday evening. And then, of course, tomorrow we've got, upon further review, right around 7 o'clock, Brian and I will come back after we watch the film. We'll talk about some things we like, we didn't like. We'll revisit the keys, and then we will talk some college football playoff rankings and where we think things are going to end up on Tuesday. So you're not going to want to miss it. We're going to be back all week, obviously, with shows. Whatever that looks like, we're going to be here. We're going to be wrapping up the regular season. We're going to be talking playoff football. We're going to be previewing conference championship games. We're going to be doing all of that fun stuff. So check us out in the afternoon. Check us out in the evenings for IB Nation Sports Talk. Wherever you get your podcasts, check us out. If you're going to watch us on YouTube, that's awesome. We'd love to have you. But everybody, we had great numbers tonight. It was awesome. Love it. And most of you hung out for 3 hours and 47 minutes. And so we really appreciate that. IB Nation is the real deal, man. So we appreciate you guys very much. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, share with your family and friends. And of course, jump on the boards.irishbreakdown.com. So for Brian and Trevor, I'm Vince, and we will talk to you next time on the Irish Breakdown podcast. Have a wonderful evening, everybody.